So, good morning. Welcome to our Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for November 17, 2015. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Peter?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have any board announcements this morning?
I have one.
Okay.
I'd like to wish Supervisor Kearney a happy birthday today.
Was it your birthday, Steve?
All right. Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Thought I would escape without that being let out, but
Well, Supervisor Kearney, you're lucky because Supervisor Edson and I was going to sing happy birthday to you, but we figured that put you way too much.
I'll consider that a birthday present.
All right, ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Steve. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Thank you.
He looks pretty good for a 30, huh?
The good thing about being Irish is that your skin is red complected all the time, so if I'm blushing right now, you can't tell. All right, you guys, thanks a lot. I'll be laying for you.
Yeah, I know, I'm pretty sure. All right, so we're going to move on to public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the regular agenda. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the consent agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. So I'll be asking for public comment, please. Any public comment? This is almost a record.
Almost. I'd like to tell the great elected officials in this county to know that Governor Brown's going to be welcoming some folks from the Middle East. And good luck, folks. Thank goodness the general plan is not finished yet, where we have high-density, low-income Section 8 homes in the county, or any of the locations where the redefinition of family taking place. That's one thing. Let's just leave it with that. That's something for you folks to think about. Lucky you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll just move right on to our regular agenda. Admin.
Okay, as is done every week, we do a quick update or make time for a quick update for your department heads to come forward and share anything that they may have that they find pertinent for the board to know about. I sent out a couple of emails yesterday, essential elements of information to the board, which is what we do on Mondays. Sorry that you got a couple rather than just one email, because what happened is I had a few EEIs come in later than I expected, but I wanted to make sure you had the information. So, with that said, this is your department head's opportunity to come up and address the board with any updates they would like to.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Jason Bates here with Calaveras County Environmental Health Department. Give an update on the debris removal process, and kind of reiterate in your essential information report that we're up to 22 teams performing debris removal. We're adding 5 more teams this week, and 2 teams are going to be specific targeting the temporary housing sites. So that includes not only FEMA, but also any other public member that shows that wants to place temporary housing where they can't meet the 150-foot setback. Now that we're increasing our teams, it allows us to get 2 teams to deploy for that. But we're also in areas where we know there's placement of the FEMA mobile housing units. For example, we know there's a site in Avenue A that we cleared, Cedar Way, Creations Way. So we're deploying teams in areas, and as we see in those areas, we got a list from FEMA last week, and prioritizing and getting people onto those properties for the placement of the temporary housing and help expedite that for the debris removal process. So with that being said, once we get the 22 teams right now is 264 workers out there, plus 132 trucks daily coming out of the burn area. So that's again, caution people, try not to, the areas that we're in, we're still in Western and Central Jesus Maria, Old Gulch, Windle Road, Moke Hill, East Murray Creek, Avenue A, Cedar Way, Whiskey Slide, and Hoover. Again, looking at those areas too that may have access constraints as we continue to get into our wet season. So as the public is driving in these areas, use caution. There was an accident yesterday in Lake County where a dump truck driver overturned. I'm not in good condition. So again, our stress to our crews is public safety, because when we have an accident, that slows down the whole operations. So not only to our people out there working, also to the drivers driving the debris removal trucks, but also the public to use caution when in those areas so we don't have an accident. It's our whole goal is to clean up and restore the community, but also be safe as we do it. To date, we have 776 right of entry forms submitted. So I know our deadline was November 6th, but we've had a few people come in, and we're still allowing them to sign up. We had a person that came in that was out of state last week, did not know if their property was impacted by the fire, found out that our home indeed did burn down, and of course they came into our office and signed up for the ROE program. So we're still getting a few people in and performing more outreach in that aspect. We have 86 properties cleared of debris, plus an additional 8 where we considered non-haz. They signed up in the right of entry program, but we identified that there was the chicken coop or the woodshed example that I gave and didn't need a full debris removal process, and so we were able to do an expedited cleanup process and work with Jeff in taking inner waste, metal and green waste down to Rock Creek. So we also have 733 properties that have been cleared of household hazardous waste. And we continue to have Department of Toxics teams here clearing people that sign up in the right of entry program, and also that apply for the self-certification process. They can request the state and remove the household hazardous waste for free. This is our last week as of right now for HazWhopper class. And I asked a person that's been coordinating that in my office, how many people have we trained locally? And it's approximately 200. And when I looked at I know it's an expensive class to take, and I looked at the person that's providing it, NES out of Folsom, and it's $700 per student. So we have 200 people that have locally that have taken this class at a cost of about $140,000 that has been paid for by the state. What that means is that we have increased our local workforce as far as their expertise, and not only helping with this process, but also in any future events. We'll have trained personnel, which is a good thing for Calaveras County, and also hopefully these people that went through the class employable maybe down at the landfill and for Jeff's operation and HHW, or when he has openings. So I just was amazed when I saw that number today, because in our current class right now I think we have 36 people, so that's been a positive thing.
One quick question. Of those 200 people, how many are actually employed on our new fire?
Well, I can't tell you exactly. I know 50%, over 50% are local contractors. And even though those are local contractors that have gone through this class, in addition, we have, so if we have right now 264 people out there, approximately 130 people are the local contractors. Some of the other people that came in with some of the other subs were union, but they're also local people, as I mentioned last week. So they might have, if they didn't have the training, they've gone through the training, but they're local people that maybe were working a union job in the Valley or the Bay Area that are now working as part of this process in the debris removal. So I haven't been able to get an exact number. I'll work on that. But we have a local contractor that was in our meeting at the library when we initially had that meeting. Seems like 3 months ago, but it was only about a month and a half ago with the contractors. And the gentleman was asking a lot of questions, and now he's picking 2 crews out of people that have been trained. So in addition to, so there's other local contractors that are looking to the classes to hire people that are outside of their own business to develop crews to be part of the debris removal process. So it's been working. By Thanksgiving, we'll be up to 30 teams, and then we're gonna, plus our 2 roving teams, and we'll have to evaluate at that point in time based on our infrastructure, if we can handle much more than that. You know, we get into, we're working with AT&T, PG&E, and with all the traffic going out with the roadblocks and stuff and timing, trying to facilitate. There's a lot of logistics involved with all of that. Also, if you haven't seen, I'll try to maybe for the next board meeting get some pictures, because I think it's imperative that people that haven't seen the before and after of the debris removal process, it's important that they understand what a good job the teams are doing. Even Friday, we had somebody in our office who was real skeptical and was kind of not really wanting to be part of the process, and they're cleaning up his property now and is ecstatic by not only the communications that he is getting from the team members out in the field, but the professional expertise out there and the level of detail in cleaning up the properties.
One more quick question, Mr. Boozer. Are we going to be able to make our projected deadline for getting the properties cleaned up by first of the month, first of the year?
And no, because when we looked at that, it was off the original DINS report of 474 properties, and we're up to 776 now. But we're looking to at least, if once we're up and running, 10 properties cleared a day when we're able to operate. And with that being said, that are talking to our operations team yesterday, we're hoping to be around 400, 450 properties cleared by the first of the year. So and then
Projected new deadline?
yeah, projected new deadline, February sometime. It all depends how many operating days that we have to work. With the Sunday, we planned on working. We had 6 crews identified that were going to work. Due to the heavy rains, we only ended up having 1 crew. They did get pizza for being out there all day, but it's hard. They're in Tyvek suits, air purifying respirators, and when you're in a heavy rain, that impedes the productivity, also more risk for truck, accidents, and also worker safety issues. So, the key is we have good weather, here to the first of the year, and we're increasing as much as we can and expediting the removal of debris. So by the end of the week, we kind of had a backlog in the soil sampling. We've looked at our processes, and we're hoping by the end of this week, all the properties that we have cleared of debris will have soil sampling performed, and then we'll be looking at those samples early part of next week. So expediting that process too right now. So we've taken teams, we have teams doing asbestos assessment, also site assessments to see how much tonnage debris is on each property. So when we get to a property, we have the right plan going into it as far as equipment needed and trucks. So those were pretty much caught up in the site assessments. Now those teams are helping to facilitate more soil sampling of clear properties. Okay. With that being said, that's all I have right now. The teams will be taking a break over the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll be working straight through, but be taking that time frame off to let the workers be with their families, and also, but we'll be ramping up right after the holidays. So I'll be here next Tuesday, give an update on where we're at. Any more questions?
When it says hazmat sweep properties cleared, does that mean they've been to the properties if there's any hazardous waste?
Yeah, that's the household hazardous waste that I was speaking of, yeah.
That doesn't mean all debris have been.
Nope,
by
that's
any
specifically household hazardous waste. When you look at a number of properties cleared of debris, the 86 plus the 8 non-haz, that's where all the debris has been removed. The foundations, all debris has been removed off those properties.
Thank you.
So, and it's been, one of the people that came in with had their property cleared, it's like, they were walking around, they said they couldn't even find a nail or a piece of wood on the property. So, I mean, the attention to detail is there, and they're doing a good job. We also just process our first self-certification application where people are going through our self-certification program if they're not signed up in the county state program.
Thanks.
So Jason, I do have a question for you regarding wells. This property, the house, I guess, was not harmed, but the well was destroyed. And so they're living in their house, but they don't have water. And so is there a process for those guys as far as registering with you that's different than the?
That is
overall
different. I mean, if they had a well house and there was debris, unfortunately, what we did see when my staff went out with in the end of September, and we did our preliminary site assessments. We saw some well houses that had solar systems tied to it, and in there was a lot of lead acid batteries. So in those cases, the teams are coming in, removing the lead acid batteries and the debris from that structure. If it's just the well itself, we've developed in our department an expedited form for the contractors to complete or the homeowner. So we know, and that's something that we're working on internally, is we're getting these one-page forms submitted by the contractors and some homeowners on what they've done either to cap the well or repair the well. And we want to make sure that these are tightened up as we're getting more rain, so we don't have surface water intrusion into the groundwater. So we're working with, we didn't want to have people have to come in, get permits, fill out an application. This was a way to expedite that process, but also so we know and track that the people are paying attention to getting that well capped, and it's not a public health and safety hazard. Calaveras Grown, we've provided the forms to them. They are helping some homeowners with the repair of the wells. So if they can contact our office, and I can give them some contractors or Calaveras Grown's number to assist them with that.
Okay.
But we don't have, internally, we don't have any resources we're not repairing the wells for the homeowners. That's been the contractors or Calaveras Grown.
So they wouldn't be able to go through the cleanup process?
They could go through the cleanup process, remove any debris, and then have their well repaired.
So they would just have to wait, though, at that point. If they wanted to move it faster, they come in, contact you guys. fill
Yeah,
out
and
that
we're
form.
having some people with the well house and stuff that, we go out there, and some of them have entered, I think, 3 of our non-haz property clearances where it was just the well house. And so we're like, let's expedite this cleanup. We don't have to wait for a full debris removal team because that's all that was damaged on the property.
So just make sure they contact
Yeah.
you guys to start with, and let them know there's a way to speed up the process for the well, if it's only the well.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have so you say on the 30 teams by Thanksgiving, you think that's the max?
We'll evaluate, at that point in time, if there's areas where we can have more teams. We just don't want to create, right now logistically, and you're out driving around with all the trucks and stuff, where we create impediments on our debris removal process and also public safety. Our roads can only handle so much going in and out, but if there's a possibility we can increase to 35, we'll do that, So, we're looking at 30 plus the 2 roving teams, and those 2 roving teams, we've cleared already 7 properties, I believe, for the FEMA MHUs. And so we're kind of, if people, besides the FEMA mobile housing units, if there's other temporary housing priorities out there, that we'll be using those 2 teams specifically for that.
Yeah, and so on the, maybe the way to do it is increase the roving teams,
Yeah.
rather than the overall teams, because.
It is, it's just hard when you do that, your level of efficiency, going and can be, because they set up, it's not just, it's mobilizing and demobilizing, moving equipment around, and so when you're in an area and you can just jump from property to property, you're much more efficient in the process. Also, when we perform the debris removal, there's air monitoring that has to take place. So our resources, that we're competing with is having enough air monitors. We want to make sure that the ash or asbestos is not becoming airborne, impacting our workers and or the neighboring property. So it's getting all those resources in place too for all those different sites and roving teams and having that planned accordingly. So.
And then as, when you look at compared it to the Valley Fire, I know it's hard to compare, but I know they're already up over 40 teams at this point. And is that just because of the logistics are just much?
Yeah, logistics. Todd Thalheimer was here last week. He's the operations chief over there, works for Cal Recycle, and it would be, he compared Middletown to San Andreas.
Right.
You have, driveways that are paved, you have asphalt roads, the logistics, you're moving from one property to the next. You don't have to load up the equipment and drive to the next property. You can literally go from property to property, and that's approximately 800 of their properties over there. So their other 300, 400 properties are compared to our geographical area in the Butte Fire. So they're going to have, and they're not hitting that area right now. They're focused on the high population densities, Middletown, and those areas right now, and not the outlying area.
Plus they have a greater pool of contractor resources over there as well, being in that larger populated area.
Yeah.
So here we're drawing from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we do have somebody, all of our truck drivers, we have, all of our truck drivers are local people. Somebody said, well, I can tell your truck drivers are from, Southern California because of the way they were driving. I'm like, well, no, they're from, they're from Calaveras, Tuolumne, Amador, San Joaquin counties. That's where all the truck drivers are local. We do have a lot of our workers, some of the workers with Sukit, the main contractor. Some are from Southern California, but again, 50% of our workers are local contractors, and we have a lot out there that are going through the class and are assisting in the debris removal process. So.
And I noticed too that we're starting to get more local folks sign up for those HAZWOPER classes so they can work for some of those contractors.
Yeah.
It took a while for them to get there, but
Yeah.
I know I've been talking to a few of them too.
And there's people that, I've had, there's some people that have come up to me and said, great, it's been a great class, and, whether they're part of the debris removal process, which they're hoping to be, but also they feel that it's a good skill set to have underneath their belt. So, also, you see trucks with the orange DROC sign. That's the debris removal operations crews. And so I asked them to also, and Alan Sender had made this suggestion, which was a good one, to have debris teams. Not everybody knows what the orange DROC signs mean, but if you do see it, that's what it means, is that they're part of the debris removal operations crew. So, just be aware of that.
So put that out there.
Yeah.
Did you get an opportunity to talk or get on the situation about Oakendale?
Yeah, that's the self-cert. Yep, that's processed. We spoke to them last night, and
Okay.
they had to submit a couple little things on their work plan, but they're good to go.
Okay, all right. And so I have one question from a public. It says, I need help cleaning up burned brush and trees and help burning them up. Salvage logging of the burned trees, would that be under Jeff, or who's going to help with these folks with that? Because there's a bunch of folks out there that are elderly folks or folks that can't do that sort of thing themselves, and they're starting to reach out and ask, what can we do?
So, I think, with Jeff, Calaveras Recovers, I know we'll have some of those resources, and I think the faith-based groups, when I spoke to them, they were looking at what resources they have to assist these people with the green waste removal and, as far as hazard trees and helping to clear their property and restore their property. So Jeff might be able to have more information on that, but I know in my discussions with some of the, faith-based groups that they were going to start assisting these homeowners in that process, so.
And so, a lot of them with insurance have policies that cover some of that or most of it. But there are, a number of folks out there that don't have that option, and it's going to be an effect on all of us.
Yeah.
Eventually, if we don't get it cleaned up right, so.
And I know that the bigger trees, I'm not sure specifically if NRCS could help with that, but I know that I refer folks to NRCS Amy Roche over through the USDA in Jackson too, because they have a lot of, she's really good at connecting folks with resources, so.
And I've been asking folks to call CAL FIRE because they do have a program.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Okay.
I do have another question too. As far as list of roads, like when you're going to do it, we talked about, at some point, we talked about having that broadcast out there so people kind of have an idea of when to anticipate that their house could be, or their site could be cleared. Are you going to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, we're working on it to have a map, a kind of a GIS map on the website where we could do that. We have a map in our office that shows that, but to be able to have a map that we can go through our public information officer and to have it electronically, because I know not everybody can make it down to our office and see where the teams are at, so.
Yeah, maybe an actual, besides just the map, also like a list from the map information.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's easier to.
It is, and so this week we're moving our operations center from Angels Camp to San Andreas, to the old Anheuser-Busch building right behind the pickle patch. So it's a good, it's a good building. Also, the crews I think will be happy. So when we have our morning safety meeting weekly that we were having behind here, they'll be a little bit warmer because it's in the warehouse. So they'll be happy with that. Some of them were a little cold when we had the training on Veterans Day behind here, and also it won't impede the government center operations in the morning. But with that being said, we're also, as we're increasing crews, we're increasing our plan staff. We've hired some people to come in and help with plans so we can help identify and get that information out. Right now, it's been, with our limited staffing and putting it, just really getting the teams out there and planning logistics in the burn area. Now we're bringing in more staff so we can really look at getting that type of information, what you're suggestion, Supervisor Wright, and get that out for the public and have a little bit more of an idea moving forward.
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things I think would be helpful is, whenever you take a trip somewhere, and you don't know where you're going, usually take a map with you. And that way you can plot out where you're going. And I think that people, they understand where you've been, because they can see it. A lot of people have been contacted already. But even if you aren't there, and even if you don't provide a timeline, it would be nice to see a route on where you're going all the way through.
And we have that, their plans, and I were talking about that yesterday. And so it's getting, right now it's about getting the teams on the ground doing the work. And the staff has the resources, is about getting the teams out there. And now that, and I understand what you're saying, and I want to get that information, that's why we're getting more staff so we can get this additional information out to the public. And especially now that we're reaching our full team, potentially our full team capacity, but maybe we can add more teams. That will give us a better idea on our projections and where we're going. Also, our projections are going to be based on weather, and so as an access to certain areas. So with that being said, we'll put that out there, but that could change based on heavy rains and access constraints, what happens with our roadways. But yes, we'll get that out there, and our crews are working with Jeff's shop, that if there is, from the rains, debris on the roads, that we have kind of a permit with Public Works to assist in that removal so we can continue our operations and work with Public Works. So we're having that coordination between the different departments so we can keep moving as we get more wet weather and moving forward. But we'll get that information out, and I understand as far as the projections and at least an idea with no guaranteed timeframes of where we're as when we're going to be at those locations.
Yeah, I mean, you can put a little disclosure at the
Yeah.
bottom, this all depends on a number of factors,
Yeah.
including weather.
But I was thinking, when I was looking at it too, it's kind of a circumference. These teams are here maybe in 2 weeks, then they'll be here 4 weeks, then here. And so it's kind of shaded that way and shows that, so.
Yeah, letting people know that you have a plan,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
is helpful.
Yeah, so if you want to set yourself up for that, that's great. I just think that a route would be good. You never know how long it's going to rain, when it's going to rain, any of that. Point A to point B is where this is going, and
Yeah, no,
I mean, I think
I'm
that-
putting
that-
pressure on my plan staff all the time, and just so they get, they're getting stuff to me as quickly as they can, and we'll work on getting that a priority and
so
hopefully have
just to
something.
let you know, I haven't heard any real negative comments on the debris removal. And of course, everybody thinks it can be faster. But I think people are generally pretty darn happy with how it's moving along and how quickly, and thanks to you and your staff and your teams for doing that. I think you're going about as fast as you can, from what I've seen, because I've been on practically almost every day talking to you about it. So I think people appreciate it, is what I'm trying to say. It's just it's really hard for them to know that right now.
Yeah, and that's, and I agree with you, is getting the information out and will help. And that's even the last couple of weeks, having people have come into our office, they see the maps, can see where the teams are, all the properties that have signed up in the program, properties that have been clear of debris, and working with GIS and getting that information out there. And it is amazing. We have close to 400 people as part of the whole debris removal.
Yeah.
That's out in the field. That's not including office staff. That's field people and truck drivers, laborers, equipment operators. So that's a huge, enormous amount of people, and they're committed. They're committed in doing the best that they can.
I've talked to
And
many of them,
so-
and they actually feel pretty good about what they're doing because they know they're helping people.
Yeah.
So how many trucks are out there, did you say?
Right now with the 22 teams, 132. As we get up to 30 teams, it'll be 180 trucks daily.
32 trucks.
And right now we're at about 264 people, approximately 270, in addition to the truck drivers.
And so the one thing that I put out a couple of questions, and I have not heard a negative response on traffic or trucks. Have you?
Yeah.
So.
You guys are doing a good job.
So you're looking at 132 trucks every day traveling, and how many trips are they making per day?
They're averaging 6 per site per day, so that's what we're looking at.
6 per site per day. So on, roads that everybody was saying that we couldn't handle traffic already. And here we are adding all this extra, not just the trucks, but the cars and all of the support rigs and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're competing, I don't want to say competing, but we're sharing with AT&T, PG&E, and all the other crews and contractors out there. And so it's, when we stress, like what you're saying, the public safety aspect is really on that transportation,
Right.
so we don't have an incident, what happened in Lake County. So.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think it's amazing that there's that many vehicles, big vehicles out on those roads, and we're doing very well with it, and that it seems to be flowing nicely. No complaints on the traffic.
Good.
I haven't heard anything negative about that. I appreciate that too.
Well, I'll share that with the teams because they appreciate hearing that, so.
Yeah, it is pretty remarkable, so keep up the great work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Yep.
do, the question that Mike always asks you, do you have enough resources? Do you need additional support from either us, the state, the feds? Is there something we can do?
Yeah, so I'm working with administration. I identified some needs as we move forward and trying to get those properties where we haven't received any communication from an ROE or self-cert, outreach to those property owners. Also with our well program, we really need to perform outreach to those property owners where we haven't received that information. So talk to HR and admin and working with getting an extra hire and assisting with that. Nice thing, because of the contract with the debris removal process, we're able to, we identified we need to get more plan staff so we can get information out to the public. So we're contracting with Tetra Tech, and they're a company that is specialized in debris removal operations and planning out of Sacramento. And they'll just be adding some staff to our planning section. So we have, under the whole ICS system, we have logistics, planning, and operations. So they're, and then identified maybe a need for get a little another staff person in my office for assistance, because the truth is we're down 35% of our staff to our AHSs since the end of June. You know, we're surviving, but you know, it's something that we're working with HR on and trying to perform vacancies that we have within our department. We're a small department, so being down 2 people is 35% of staff. So staff has done an amazing job in maintaining our continued services to the public, but we do need to get those filled, because if not, we'll be feeling the crunch here as this progresses.
So is there a way that we can maximize our local hiring for some of these positions through the contractors, or, you know, just?
Some of them, you know, one of the things is in environmental health, people, we've been advertising for a registered environmental health specialist, which is, you have to be state certified. Unfortunately, that is a specialized field, and so now we're opening up to a trainee position where hopefully we have a local graduate that meets the minimum requirements and can come in and go through our training process. Takes time and to invest in that process and train somebody, but feel it's the best way to get recruitments coming in to assist our department. So
What I was talking about mostly also was, you know, for your communications, getting communications out to the public, because,
Yes.
because really, they're really good at it.
Yeah, so right now I have a former director of Sac County who's been working with Sharon and providing daily updates, and he's good. He's also fielding calls, and he's located in our office. Mel, if you've been in the office. So he's assisting with that right now and getting those communications out. So if there's ways or avenues, I mean, you know, discuss later on, besides using our public PIO and Mel to help facilitate in getting information out. I'm all ears for that, but he's been working real well in communicating to the public with contractors where we're at and fielding those calls in our operations.
What was the name of that company again?
Tetra Tech,
How do you,
Tetra and TECH, I believe.
Okay. And so do we, and we're getting reimbursed for that?
So that's all through the debris removal operations is all that's, because our initial funding was through the California Disaster Assistance Act. So that's through Cal Recycle, Cal EPA, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services.
state
through
funded.
State funding through that process. So when the public assistance for that will go through them. Okay, for the FEMA reimbursement.
Great. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
I appreciate what they're doing, and I want to compliment them. My silly question is, and I don't expect an answer today, but we always talk about getting rid of all these hazardous waste material. But I would be very interested in to who's the recipient and how do they handle it eventually? You're trucking it someplace. It's all hazardous waste. So it must be going, not going to go to the moon, it's not going to go to Mars. But how is that being handled after that? I mean, there's another county. What do they know that we don't know? Okay, that's all. It would be nice to know how is it being handled for future reference down the road that could cut the cost, that we can do something locally. There's got to be a way to neutralize all this hazardous waste material. Somebody's doing it. Thank you.
So I can answer Pierre's question. So the household hazardous waste is picked up by Department of Toxic Substance Control. They have an emergency response unit and their contractor. That they, I believe they're contracted with Clean Harbors or Park Environmental to take all the household hazardous waste in the state of California. It has to be taken to a permitted treatment, storage, and disposal facility. So from there, it's, the county basically has a manifest, and for all the waste that's leaving this county, it goes under a manifest, shows where the originator is, and then the disposal site, and following federal and state regulations for the disposal of that household hazardous waste. The ash, the metal is being recycled, the waste, concrete recycled, and then the ash is being taken to Forward Landfill in San Joaquin County. So all of that was decided upon working with Public Works in the beginning of the debris removal operations. They had the facilities and the space to take that debris coming out of the county for the ash, and asbestos and heavy metals. They have characterized it, the teams have characterized it, so they know ahead of time, Forward knows what is going down there. We have gatekeepers that we put in place at the Forward Landfill to take that waste in. So that's, in a summary, that's where the waste is going. Household hazardous waste is where, depending on the type of waste it is, and the permit, every treatment storage disposal facility can take certain waste in, it goes to those sites. People can also, with the landfill, if they go through the self-certification process and they have household hazardous waste and Department of Toxics has not picked it up, we would coordinate with our local household hazardous waste facility to take that. But the amount of waste that was generated from the Butte fire, the local HHW, one, we didn't have the staffing nor the facility to take all that waste in and then have a contractor remove it from there. This is done through the state emergency fund through Department of Toxic Substance Control.
So is there a continued responsibility for the county, or do they just store it?
No, they'll treat it. That's what there's different treatment methods for the type of waste. So if you want the specifics of it, I can find out the exact locations of where it's going and find out from the state. But the permit process for hazardous waste treatment and disposal is very intensive, and certain disposal facilities and treatment facilities can only treat waste certain ways. Some of this probably ends up going out of state to be treated. So they may go to a temporary site here in California, then taken to Nevada and Utah. And that's the reality of any hazardous waste disposal in the state of California.
What about batteries?
Batteries, if they are still in good condition, can be recycled. Okay, if they've been burned, now they can't be recycled. They have to be handled as hazardous waste, and they're taken to a permitted TSDF. That's a treatment storage disposal facility for the proper treatment. So different avenue. But batteries themselves that are intact can be recycled. Not intact have to be handled as full as hazardous waste.
Because we have, from what I've heard, we had quite a few batteries out there because of the solar.
Yeah, we did.
Solar stuff. So,
yeah.
And any battery operated vehicles, or any vehicle with a battery in it, actually. So just kind of curious on, everything has some type of hazardous properties, I guess.
Yeah. Depending on what it is,
Yeah.
Ignitable, reactive, toxic, or corrosive. So.
Yeah.
And what was the name of that? It goes to in San Joaquin County, where?
Forward Landfill.
Forward, that's in Manteca.
Okay.
And they're probably, they're composting some of it, or, yeah.
No, that waste is going to their landfill.
Is it?
Yeah, all that waste is going to their landfill. So the ash and soil, yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what they do, right?
That's what they're a class 1 landfill. Our landfill's a class 2 landfill.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, but I also know they have a huge composting facility out there.
Yeah, and that would be for any green waste that would be coming in or something else.
All right.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
Marty Crane, I have a question. I know that there are all kinds of things out there, and including sharps, like hypodermic needles, that sort of thing. And I was wondering, not just for the Butte fire, I know you probably are dealing with that, but it is an ongoing basis. I know the sheriff's department does not take those. Where do people take those? If they end up with a pile of them somewhere and they can't send them back to the pharmacy where they came from because they don't know where it came from, where do they take those? Is there an ongoing, or can there be an ongoing program for that? And then also the battery issue, can that, do we have a place in the county where people can take batteries? I used to take
Rock
them
Creek.
to the landfill at Rock Creek, but I don't know if that is still, the hospital uses a lot of batteries, and someone there asked me. So, okay. So would you ask on batteries, and I don't know about the sharp side.
So the batteries can be taken to Rock Creek. Also, there's Cragen or O'Reilly's can take batteries in there for their battery exchange program. So Napa will take batteries in.
Those are car batteries.
Yes, yes, so the car batteries, but also the bigger batteries can be taken to Rock Creek.
Any kind of like unit?
Oh, the small batteries, the alkaline batteries, yeah. So those, again, taken to Rock Creek Household Hazardous Waste. This year, we didn't have the temporary household hazardous waste events due to the Butte fire. Also, when we have those annual events, you can take the batteries to those temporary household hazardous waste facilities, along with the medical waste or the syringes, if they're in a container, to the temporary household hazardous waste, and also to Rock Creek. So
So the sharps?
the sharps, yeah.
Those are only when you have an annual event?
Annual or Rock Creek household hazardous waste facility.
You can take sharps?
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Excuse me, Mr. Probitz, does our transfer stations take batteries? Like in Avery, I seem to recall seeing something like that. I know they take electronic waste and some other waste, but I think that they do take batteries.
Yeah,
So that might be in
I'll
the
have to
source.
look at the details on that one.
And to answer the question regarding the prescriptions, I believe there's a depository in the sheriff's department that's,
it won't take sharps.
These are the sharps.
oh, Sharps, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and only for the prescriptions, we're kind of get, prescriptions have to be taken by the sheriff's department because of the potential for the narcotics, and sheriff's
Correct.
office is the only place that can legally accept those items.
The recyclable waste, Valley Spring, the buy, get paid for. The big batteries and stuff.
Oh, yes.
They pay for it.
Right, there's a court for that.
All right, so let's move on with Butte Fire.
Okay, Jeff Krovitz, Public Works Director. I apologize, I handed out a flyer that describes the Integrated Waste Management Program for US Again, which is a textile recycling company. We're making some modifications to the program to make it more economic. It is clothing and textile recycling, and they are centers distributed throughout the county. And the only reason I handed it out now is because I'm not sure I'm available at the end of the meeting, not knowing when that's going to occur. So I wanted to make sure that got on record. On to the Butte Fire. I'll start with road maintenance. My crews are continuing to spend 80% of their resources and time on fire cleanup and preventative emergency preparation measures. They are supplemented in their efforts by CAL FIRE inmate crews as well as CCC crews. We've extended the 3 CCC crews for another 2 weeks, and they are doing a lot of work in terms of filling up sandbags in preparation for flooding, as well as doing work out on the roads, helping with culverts and ditches. So far in the 4 rain events that we've had this season, we've had some debris flows. We've had silt and debris into our ditches and into our culverts, but it has not resulted in any closures or any permanent damage, and we've been able to clean that up immediately following the event and continue operations, continue openings for the public. Hopefully that will last. Moving on to the some of the other programs that we've got going. There are 2 programs for road recovery within the county. One is sponsored by Federal Highways called the Emergency repair program. I had Caltrans engineers assisting with that to encapsulate the damage that need permanent repairs. I received a summary of that yesterday, and we'll review that and sit down to push those forward through FHWA so that permanent recovery can be made on the federal aid roads. Those are the major roads: Jesus Maria, Railroad Flat, Mountain Ranch, Sheep Ranch, and Frico City. The rest of the roadways within the county that are in the fire burn area are subject to recovery, permanent repairs under the Public Assistance Program. And Federal Highways has, not Federal Highways, I'm sorry, FEMA and Cal OES have completed their review of those roads with the damage assessment my department put together early on in the event. And we are meeting today to negotiate those before moving on with the permanent repair. The Public Assistance Program also funds the emergency response. So those activities that occurred immediately after the fire and are still occurring in terms of reduction of hazards along the roads, and that is for both the federal assistance roads and the local roads. So those two programs are moving ahead. They will eventually move into contracts, construction contracts for the permanent repairs on those roads. We're prioritizing those as the ones that I've talked about before, the most important ones to maintain access into the burn area, and also trying not to put a lot of energy and resources into those roads that we suspect are going to be imminently threatened by large rain events. Any questions on that?
Will those contracts go out to bid?
They have to, yes.
And will any preference be given to local companies or?
I don't know whether we have that in our code or not. If we have a local preference written into the ordinance code, then we certainly can give a preferential treatment. But I'm not aware at this point if there is or there isn't.
Is there, Director Krovitz, is there anything that we as a board can do to help support you to get these expedited?
They have their own process. Eventually, not eventually, but as soon as we come to agreement on these programs and we're ready to go out to contract, I will definitely need additional staffing. I will continue to work with admin and HR on identifying these staffing needs to administer these programs. They're not insignificant in terms of dollars spent, and it will require not only staff to help prepare the construction contracts for bid, but to manage the construction contracts and also to support the construction in the field and the closure of these programs so that we can maximize our contribution, our partial contributions to those programs.
I can appreciate you working with admin and HR, and thank you for doing that. But could you let us know when you know the list of employees you need, what you're looking for? Because sometimes this just kind of, I'm not going to say sneaks by us, that's not the best description, but we can help by shaking the tree a little bit to bring people and know how urgent this is.
Thank you.
I'd appreciate it if you'd let us know the list when you know who you need.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much.
I'll ask a more direct question. So I've been talking to you on this for at least 2 months, right? At least 2 months.
11 weeks.
You feel like that you were able to get your resources as quickly as you would like to? It's a simple yes or no question.
No.
Thank you.
But I do want to indicate that I got a major resource that arrived yesterday to help a former Public Works Director, interim director, has been in the chair several times, Mr. Mike Miller. And so I'm anticipating that will help relieve me of some of the load that I'm carrying.
So is it going to be able to help you with the landfill at all?
We haven't discussed it yet.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, so I'll move on.
Well, wait, if are you going to ask him another question?
I was just going to compliment him, actually. But, you know, maybe the public.
Don't inflate his ego.
Go ahead, Chris. I'll wait till the end then. Go ahead, Chris. And there's also a public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to you here in a second.
So when you said no, as far as, you know, the resources not getting to you quickly enough, can you just elaborate on the process there?
I think it has more to do with me than anything else. I see the need, and I want people to go to work on them. And yet processes have to be followed. We're not exempt from county processes, from hiring processes, from certification of those people that are targeted to be hired. So it necessarily takes more time than one anticipates. So again, just like every other department in this county, I have holes in my department. I'm down 2 engineering positions. I'm down, I don't know, 2 or 3 positions at the landfill. So it makes it hard to not only meet your daily mission duties, but also to take on an event as large as the Butte Fire and be able to respond when you start behind. So since I was put to give you a yes or no answer, I gave you a yes or no answer, but it really reflects more my my needs and not necessarily the process that's required.
Yeah, well, that's why, you know, and I don't mean to put you on, well, I do mean to put you on the spot, but, because I just want to, you know, get more information on how, you know, we can help you out with that process. I mean, it sounds like maybe it's just just a matter of working through it based on the reality of where you started from. You just didn't have enough people to instantly jump into the fray, and you have to bring those people on board, and that takes time, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Is there something that we can do as a board to help speed that process up?
I'll keep you posted.
Please do, Mr. Provitz.
Well, I'm wondering if, as the board, we need to look at the authority that the Public Works Director has in some instances so that he doesn't have to hesitate when he needs to do this. And maybe that's something that you can tell us, Director.
Well, you know, I believe that everybody, that there's a process for everything. And as far as his authority goes, I think he's got probably the authority he needs to do the work. But, you know, this whole thing with qualifying for funding is, and to be able to get the positions and all of that, seems to me like that, you know, it would have been really great to have people in place to know exactly what that is, to be able to move forward with it immediately, rather than trying to develop or go through the process that it seems like with OES or FEMA has been. You know, you got to learn what their process is, and we did not know what that is, that's for sure, because we've never been through this before. So it's something that we'll be talking about in the future, I'm pretty darn sure. You learn a lot here. So thank you for all the work that you're doing, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And your crews, I know they're working hard, they're putting out, thank you.
So you don't think that's a problem? I mean, with what Steve was asking you there as far as the authority?
With an event like this, Supervisor Wright, there will never be enough money, enough people to be able to adequately respond. So we do the best we can with what we have, and we seek for more wherever it's available.
Okay.
Continue to ask.
So you feel comfortable then with the amount of authority you have then to do what you need to do?
I don't find that I have any additional authority over what I normally have as a result of this emergency event. And nor do I feel like I have the ability to short-circuit any processes that are normally required. So, and we're all working under the same set of rules. You know, I have a piece, environmental health has a large piece, so we're all, as we go on, the responsibilities of each department will change and will morph. Right now, Public Works is toward the end of its emergency response, and we're now starting to move into permanent recovery. So,
Until it rains real hard.
yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, honey, you keep reminding me.
Okay, so I'll move on with some of the other programs that we've got going.
The public had a question.
Yes, public, please.
I'm sorry.
You could just come up and, so you can be filmed and recorded?
Director Krovitz, I just had a question about something you had said. You were talking about programs, and you had mentioned prioritizing access to roads and energy reduction, or in other words, energy reduction on roads that you knew were going to, I guess, eminently fail. You mentioned some of the roads, so I'd like clarifying on that, because I don't know which is prioritizing and which is energy reduction. And do you have a list of, for the public to access what those roads are? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. To clarify, the roads that are priority roads are those roads that provide primary access, egress in and out of the burn area. So it would be Mountain Ranch Road, both above and below Mountain Ranch, Railroad Flat Road, portions of Jesus Maria Road up to Potteroff and a little beyond, Sheep Ranch Road because of its access to Highway 4. The roads that I suspect are going to take on significant damage and may become impassable would include portions of Haver Road as it comes down the hill and crosses the river near Jesus Maria Road near the intersection of Haver, both going up Jesus Maria Creek for several miles, as well as going up the hill towards Highway 26. I have some small areas of vulnerability on Whiskey Slide. I have some crossings there that may or may not hold together depending on the size and the intensity of the rain event. So that's in a nutshell. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
All right. And in terms of the second part of your question, is this notified anywhere? Yes, we've provided an exhibit to the Butte Fire Public Information Office that identifies specific locations of probable road closures. So when we get notice from National Weather Service that we are in an imminent storm warning, meaning that rain is within 12 hours of intensity that would mobilize the soils and cause slides, then there are specific locations that we will close in the interest of public safety, because we are trying to protect life, and we do not want the public entering into areas that are imminently dangerous. So that on the website can be viewed with probable locations. They will also be notified using changeable message signs that we've got deployed throughout the fire area on major roads and state highways. So that's available and has been pre-planned out. We also have methodologies deployed in the field at these specific locations to affect these road closures. And we've also worked with environmental health crews in terms of the debris removal program, so they know where these locations are, and we're working with them so that we do not hamper their operations, and they can help us where they are able with debris flows across roads that they need access to, as well as notification systems among the various groups doing that work.
Great, and I know you're working with Alan Cinders, right, up there with their long-term recovery group?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's really great. That's very helpful.
Okay, so moving along to watershed recovery and tree programs, things like that. Supervisor Wright was correct in indicating that NRCS deals with recovery efforts on private lands to the extent of the programs they have available. And he's also correct that CAL FIRE has a number of emergency programs for the commercial harvesting of burned trees. Information on that program, which is a very foreshortened process for foreshortened timber harvest plan and environmental documentation, must be done through a registered professional forester. That's on the CAL FIRE website. It also provides lists and contacts to logging companies that have done work in Calaveras County, as well as registered professional foresters. In many ways, that's a priority in terms of trying to get trees that are dead, essentially standing dead, on people's lands, either down onto the ground or off of the property so that they don't represent a hazard to people who are attempting to do subsequent work in terms of watershed restoration. In terms of the restoration, there are a couple of programs that I am currently actively working on. One is the FMAG hazard mitigation, which is about $441,000 moving with a match, an in-kind match of another $147,000. That's been targeted to deploy on private lands within the McCollum River Basin, and that's through FEMA and Cal OES. We had a meeting yesterday on that, and we're pushing ahead with them doing initial work on NEPA clearance for this work. So far, they've been receptive to the program. We won't know for a little while if it will be approved, and I will be bringing this program before the board for approval of what that program is and where the matches are coming from. But I think it's one of the few programs that I've found that allows us to deploy state and federal funds and some local efforts onto private lands in a prioritized manner. And similarly, there is the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which is a larger amount of funds that we've been notified that we can go after. Again, it is a competitive application, and again, FEMA is moving ahead to attempt to clear that area that's targeted from a NEPA perspective. And again, Public Works will be bringing this second grant program in front of the board for approval, and I'm still working on identifying matches in an attempt to protect our program funds. And that one would be deployed south, within the burn area south of Highway 26, on private lands that are prioritized as those lands that have steep hillsides, severely burned areas that have a high probability of discharging sediment into our watershed waterways, our permanent watershed waterways. So it's an attempt to keep as much soil in place as we possibly can. And it's mostly through methods such as straw, mulch, seed, a little bit of contour felling of trees to help hold things together, those types of methods.
And so you're getting help with Calvert's growing on that as well?
If possible. They have been doing a lot of work on private lands, I know, with private donations of materials. And if it does work out and they feel like they can become, a potential workforce under this program, we will certainly use them. I've discussed it with Sean on a couple of occasions. So he knows what I'm doing and I know what he's doing. So.
Right. So this is kind of in line with that. Last night at LAFCO, the board approved the RCD to move forward.
Good.
And do you think that if we had an RCD within our county that was programmatic around watershed management and that sort of thing, that would be helpful right about now for the county?
Yeah, it would have been. And it will be. Yeah, it's necessary to be able to have that kind of structure that essentially defines the types of work that we can and can't do.
Or makes it easier to find?
It certainly makes it easier. And by the same token, we also do not have a county flood management program here in the county.
Which can be incorporated.
Which can be incorporated into the RCD. I was going to move on to some other work that I've got going in terms of protective measures outside of the burn area.
Yeah,
because we do know that runoffs are expected to be higher than normal.
I did have a
Supervisor?
question on the hazard mitigation funds.
Yeah.
What was that amount again? I forgot from last.
For the,
No, that's the FMAG.
oh, the FMAG, it's 441,000 in grant funds with another 147,000 in match.
I got that one. What's the hazardous mitigation?
The FEMA one.
Oh, the FEMA one, they're both FEMA ones, but one is under FMAG and one is not. The HMGP under FEMA, it's up to a $3 million program with a $1 million in-kind match.
I want to ask you a question about that, too. Director Krovitz. When, say you hear that one of these grants is offered for us to use, and you've negotiated whatever it takes to get that done, how long is it taking you to turn that around from the point you get the phone call or email, whatever it is that says you've got it, to get to us and then back in the field to use?
My plan is to bring the programs in front of the board prior to me getting the word, so that I don't have to add that time and that delay. So basically, it's going to be, if we get the grants, do we have permission to accept it and guarantee matching funds and go to work on it and deploy? So
So that way, we've said yes, you get the email, and the next phone call is you're putting people to work on this.
well, no, there's going to have to be, the program still needs to be deployed. We need to reach out to the public with the prioritizations, making the offers to them. And unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of coordination work because we have a lot of property owners. We've got close to 2,500 property owners in Calaveras County within the burn area. Within those, some of them can be pulled out because they are mildly or low to moderate burn, and they're probably not going to slide, or they're not steep. So those will be taken out. Then we will then be sending out invitations, essentially, and right of entry to allow us to do the work on private lands
Okay.
in
If there's
conjunction with the property owner. So this is not a short-term program, and there will be subsequent efforts that have to come back. This is essentially an erosion and sediment control program. It's not yet a reforestation type of a program, and those are going to be coming subsequent to that.
Okay, and so I kind of go back to what I brought up a few moments ago. If there's anything we need to do to help you get those out there post haste, please come back to us immediately and let us know.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question. You had mentioned earlier with the CAL FIRE and NRCS, so those are immediate programs now, correct, for private landowners to pursue? On the tree removal and things along that line?
The CAL FIRE one for tree removal, that's available now.
Right.
And it's based upon the declaration of emergency that, again, foreshortens timber harvesting. You have to, or the public also needs to be aware that in the heels of the rim fire, there's not a lot of marketable value for this salvaged timber. There is some, but not a lot. I don't think anyone should have an expectation that they're going to be putting money in their pocket at the end of the program.
Okay.
Okay?
And the same with NRCS?
And the NRCS has a variety of grant programs that are available right now, and it really has to do with types of activities that have been going on the land, whether it's rangeland, whether it's forest production land, but it has to be land that's been in some form of production, and then grants are available to help the landowners recover from the fire.
Okay.
And those have definitely been deployed and are in the process of being deployed right now for those who have taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
I've seen,
I've seen if people have signed up
yeah,
through the USDA, SBA, that sort of thing, they're getting information about this particular program
right.
and others. But this was more immediate, it seemed like. So quicker
Correct.
access.
But there's going to be folks out there that just are not good at reaching out and processing or knowing where to go or what to do. And so that's going to be really important for us to be able to find a way to engage with them, just like it has been through this whole thing. You know, it's been the same scenario in many cases. So.
All right, so the other thing that I mentioned is a little bit of preparation work outside of the burn area. We have applied for and received permitting to clean brush and debris out of creeks. One targeted creek, of course, is Cosgrove down in the Valley Springs area, and another portion of the creek that we've targeted is San Andreas Creek here in San Andreas. These are areas that have historically had some challenges and heavy rain events, and I anticipate they will continue to have some. So preparation work is moving along to get to the best of our ability, get CAL FIRE crews in with our crews embedded to be able to get this work completed.
Is there any possibility of sediment removal in some of those creeks because of the amount of sediment that's going to be flowing down them? Or do we have to wait until the disaster happens to be able to respond to it, like we seem to be doing?
Well, to date, I haven't been successful in getting projects up high enough, or with the right organizations that are interested in doing sedimentation dams for removal of sedimentation before they enter the larger reservoirs. That doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. It just means that to date it hasn't happened yet. And yes, a new event that causes damage to roads or extreme mud flows becomes a new event. And then there is, of course, funding available to mitigate that. It seems a little backwards, but that's the environment in which we're working in.
Because I know that parts of San Andreas Creek, you know, it just keeps filling up with stuff. The bottom is now, you know, maybe 2 or 3 feet higher than it was, you know, 2 years or 3 years ago, because of the sediment that goes down and it lodges in there, and eventually it's just gonna flood, you know, everything anyhow. So Cosgrove, same thing. If you look down in Cosgrove, you can remove the vegetation down there, but the vegetation that remains that they couldn't remove, or what flows down from above that is, and plus the sides that are being washed out continuously. Like, for instance, even at Gold Creek Estates right now, some of the sidewalk that's along Gold Creek there, along the creek, is being undermined, because when the creek flows, it just keeps washing out more and more, and all that sediment gets in the bottom of the creek and it builds up more and more, and then there's less flow, or there's not less flow, it just gets wider and wider and higher and higher. So, you know, isn't there anything that we can do in preparation to be able to prevent, because something that's going to happen, because we are in the midst of something that will create even a greater problem for those areas? That was kind of...
The concern is well-founded, and there is no doubt that with sedimentation happening in creeks that are subject to flooding, and when you have a fire event that's going to probably transmit more sediment downstream, in a series of storms, it keeps on moving and mobilizing, that you have less capacity in the creeks. The ability to get in there and do what would be considered stream bed alteration requires very constrained permitting approval. And it's not just with State Fish and Wildlife Service, it also with a number of resource agencies, both federal and state, to do that type of alteration in situ.
Now,
So
I got a question on that. Is there a way to do a countywide permit process that would, kind of speed that process up?
we have had a countywide permit process in the past for the cleaning of streams and creeks within the county with State Fish and Wildlife. And we are trying to work on that again. But again, we do need the RCD as an overarching organization to assist with that. So.
Okay.
So in answer to your question, somewhat limited, and it takes a significant amount of time for that type of alteration to occur, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish it weren't that way.
Well, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, people complain about flooding and water quality, and yet we're cutting ourselves our own throats. So, I guess until until the powers to be realize that, that's what we're going to continue to do. All we can do is keep trying.
Yeah, and so you're going to pursue that What is it called? I'm forgetting the terminology for the permit for the entire county. There's a,
It's a blanket permit with Fish and Wildlife, State Fish and Wildlife,
all right.
that allows us to do, debris removal of brush and overgrowth.
And it's not something we can do by ourselves as an entity before the RCD? Because I just, I'm wondering if it takes the RCD, another year to form, because of the way things move.
Yeah. And in the interim, I'm doing it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, but there's no way to set it up, the process,
It would take a year to set it up too.
so, okay.
Same amount of time.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, any other questions on areas that I might have missed?
How's our new tub grinder going?
It is grinding away. The landfill people presented me with a cup of grindings, said Merry Christmas on it. And we're going to change the screens on it so we can get a little denser grind and chip. That will be a better product for the mulching and the erosion control. I want larger pieces. They tend to absorb moisture and then hold better than, say, a straw deployment would. And they're also are providing a higher quality of nutrient into the soil. So, and currently we've got, I think, a little more than 10,000 cubic yards stockpiled.
Really?
Yes, and it has a street value. It's part of our intended match to help protect our programs, and we're continuing to grind. Just to give you guys an update, I've got temporary water system in and filling at Red Hill with the intent of opening it. But the grinder, the linear grinder, our older grinder, the one that we had that I wanted to deploy up to Red Hill, needs to go into the shop for some deferred repairs.
Okay.
So that will take me longer than I thought.
Red Deal is going to be open when?
As soon as the grinder's finished,
Okay.
as soon as the grinder's repaired. I could open it and fill it and then shut it down again. I'd prefer not to.
So are you using, I heard that we have, who is it, the local folks making the wattles
Yes,
out of the pine needles, which actually helps us, right?
yes, it does.
So are they being utilized at all?
I haven't talked to them in the last couple of weeks, but I believe that some of the pine needle wattles are being deployed for run-on, run-off controls by the Cal Recycle program, and that they've sold others of them. They donated, I don't know, a truckload to county, and we've deployed those out on the roads for protection of culverts along the roadways. So, and I know they're busy producing. I haven't been pushing green waste into the landfill airspace since May.
So that's helped out.
Well, of course, it preserves.
The other, I wanted to talk a little bit about that too, is the skin that they're using on that, the netting?
Yes.
That's a biodegradable netting?
It's a cotton netting that will biodegrade. It's a 12 to 18-month life, and then it
Right.
degrades, and the mulch or the pine needles that are inside then kind of fall out onto the ground.
So if you use like a regular sock or netting, aren't you supposed to go out and retrieve that when it breaks down a little bit, because it's plastic, right? Or
Yeah, it's either plastic or a man-made material that does not degrade quickly. Yeah, there is a requirement to go back out, cut the wattles open, and recover the plastic netting. I don't like using it. I don't use it. On previous projects that I've done in the past, I specifically exclude it in my specifications, and if I go out on site and see it, I make the contractor remove it and redeploy. Just because I don't like that overhead, and there is some evidence of reptilian mortality. So frogs, snakes, lizards, that kind of stuff will get caught in this as they're trying to pass through, and they can't get out. So it essentially causes a little high death rate. So if these socks or wattles are planned for a temporary deployment and then removal, not a big deal, but to me, it's much easier to deploy them and walk
Leave
away and leave them.
so you save on your overhead of going back and taking them out?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I got a couple things.
Have you been meeting or coordinating with East Bay Mud and BLM?
BLM a little bit. They've provided me with their proposal for what they want to do on their 12,000 acres within the burn area. And that funding is processing through going through their structure to get a response on what they've asked for. They've also made a request to the county to know if there are some priorities that the county have that are below BLM lands that are severely burned, where we might target their restoration efforts to try to protect some things that are below that. And GIS is looking at that right now. In terms of East Bay Mud, I've been working with East Bay Mud since almost the start of the fire. Deployed them. They assisted me on a project. There was a grant project to, prior to the fire, to stabilize and install culverts and secure the Ponderosa Way from State Route 26 down to the McCollum River on the Calaveras side. And Public Works had gotten much of the work done, but not all of the work done. And then we had the fire, and rather than me completing the project and potentially wasting the funding that was providing new base rock, I asked East Bay Mud if they could help with stabilization efforts, got them a CCC crew. They've completed that. That corridor is essentially stable. We've looked at it after the rains, and it's holding together. So it's anywhere from 300 to 600 feet wide from top to bottom. East Bay Mud continued, went up the other side, did some stabilization efforts on the Amador side, which is not it's not in as good a shape as the Calaveras side, has not been maintained by the county for a number of years. And then I'm also working with East Bay Mud on the FMAG grant for the Moke Basin, and I'll bring more information to that. They've definitely been quite active and quite helpful.
And then you'll include, can you include BLM and East Bay Mud as partners with the hazard mitigation? Because I know that East Bay Mud and BLM are both looking for, are both working on the mitigation aspect as well. I don't know if they could be match partners or something like that.
East Bay Mud, yes, but not necessarily BLM.
Okay. Just because of the federal.
Well, BLM is looking to protect their own lands, and they're looking for some prioritizations on that. They've done their analysis, they've got the report, they've requested funding.
And then another idea that I heard out there is, this is kind of a harebrained idea, but buying chippers, community chippers for, for neighborhoods. They could actually just chip up their own debris. And just, I know that, and I think, I can't remember where I got the idea, but I think it's another community somewhere in the Sierra Nevada did it, a point for, fire clearance around neighborhood houses to, and the county assisted with the purchase of those through a grant fund.
I haven't heard about that. I do know that there are communities that have purchased equipment that they can use for fuel reduction. And also, there are grant and CHIPS programs through the Fire Safe Councils, where owners can essentially take fuels, excess fuels, and pile them up along the street, and then the Fire Safe Council contracts a contractor to bring the chipper and crews, and they just drive down the streets and load them up and chip them. And so you're taking fuels and you're getting back mulch.
Yeah.
And I know those programs are definitely available, and they're being utilized in a number of areas in the county, our county.
Yeah, mainly deployed through the Fire Safe Councils.
Mostly deployed through them, yes.
Yeah, and our role in that is very limited, just for the time, expense of staff and all that stuff.
Yeah, but an RCD could do it.
RCD's doing a lot of stuff.
That's right, we need to make it do a lot of stuff.
Any other questions?
No,
I'm sure there are, but you probably should leave before I come up with some more.
Just thank you to you and your staff. I know you guys have all been putting on the afterburners, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And appreciate your sense of urgency and this whole, right from the get-go, I'm glad to see that, this part of you has come back up again, because they were hanging down there pretty low. Appreciate that, appreciate your effort, Jeff, and your crew.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Debbie, you had something?
No, just said thank you.
All right. Mr. White, short timer.
Just as I was getting the hang of things.
Yeah.
Jeff White, building official. To date, we keep the running tally on the electrical permits. We're at 164 now. 4 FEMA houses on the ground out there. We have, as of this morning, I checked with some activity coming in for rebuilds and activity in the burn area. It looks like we're starting to ramp that up. The RFP for assistance will close tomorrow, so we can get a chance to review that. Also the request for qualifications for an engineer, geological engineer, is out there. We've got some hits on that already too. So by the end of the week, we should have that some good focus on that. So
Any
that's where we
local
are.
folks?
I'm sorry?
Any local folks?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I know there's at least one.
Yeah.
So I believe we'll have a pretty good. We've had some interest in that, and how many actually submit their qualifications, we'll find out in the next few days.
Okay.
Mr. White?
Yes,
Do we
sir.
have an ADA consultant that works with our building department on all structures and things?
Yes, we
I
do.
understand we do. Do we have anybody in our organization or county that can be certified to do that?
We could, we have had the interest in some of our staff to take the test. The test is, I believe it's $1,600 to take the test the first time, $800 to take it the second time. A lot of people end up taking the test the second time. It's a very difficult test to take. There are a number of certified specialists that are available that we have taken advantage of that opportunity to use a local certified access specialist.
With the anticipated increase in our building over the next 2 to 4 years as a result of the fire and other issues, would it be economically feasible to continue using consultant or invest the money in our own people, in your opinion?
Well,
Before you leave.
ideally, yeah. Ideally, it would be nice to have somebody in our department get certified.
Have you budgeted for those funds or anything?
Yes, we did have an unsuccessful attempt at taking the test with one of the staff. I think it was like about a year ago. So we did have money in there to budget for the examination, but I would imagine that the staff that would be interested in taking that test could take another shot at it or take a shot at it.
Think we can keep that idea alive for a while?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I've asked the staff is who wants to take the ADA examination, and we had one so far that took the test. But to fill in with the absence of staff with that position being covered, we've been able to use a local consultant to do our accessibility requirements.
I just want to make sure that we had that concept still going on.
Oh, absolutely. That would be ideal if we could get staff to take the examination, pass it, and be qualified.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jeff, now, excuse my ignorance on this, but when, as people start to, probably next year and the year after that, the sites get all cleaned up and they come in to rebuild their houses. Have other areas that have had this, dealt with like developing pre-approved plans or something like that? I heard people talking about that. I just thought I'd ask you to fill in more detail.
Some developers use master plans they'll bring in a master plan which is designed for a subdivision, so they'll have, say, 3 or 4 different master plans, and they'll flip them or whatever back and forth. What that does is expedite the process of doing the plan review and the permitting, because we've already done that initial plan review. That is typical of some developers who want to develop and keep control over the subdivision that they're developing.
Right.
Pre-approved plans for the fire area, I don't know, I haven't seen anybody present that other than, I do believe one designer said he had some plans that he would offer for people to pick those plans if they wanted to and bring them in, that we would do a plan review and see if they are applied to the current codes. So.
And then maybe I'm thinking the aftermath of Oakland, I think is where the idea came from. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I don't have any familiarity with how they process their redevelopment, but I think in this case we have a rather divergent type of population out there that will have various different types of ideas of how they want to rebuild out there.
But if you had like a builder, say a local builder does, like you were saying with the master plan, 3 or 4 different types of houses, they could get those approved, pre-approved by your office, and then people could, when they want to come in, they could choose from those.
Sure.
Theoretically, and that could speed the process up.
Sure, we have done that.
If folks wanted to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would, if a contractor has some plans that he has a number of clients that the process would still, we would have to independently review each one of those plans, and if they're used again, as they would be in a master category. They wouldn't be necessarily earmarked for a certain parcel until they were picked to be used for that parcel. But yes, that's an option.
And with that, how much time would that save, do you think, on an individual homeowner?
It depends on the size of the house. If they're the more complicated ones with the engineering and so forth, take several weeks in some cases. Our turnaround time for single-story, uncomplicated plans is pretty good right now. I think we're fairly well caught up. So
if you had a plan and you approved it, done, okay? And so they wanted to put that house on a piece of property right there. Mm-hmm. And then they wanted to put it also on 10 other properties. Same plan, same everything.
Yeah, that would be a master plan.
And so what is the extra added time difference? Because if you've already got that plan done and you want to put it over here, what's the...
Well, if that was using that scenario, once the plans were approved, we would just do this. We'd have the submittal brought in, and if the plan was under the same ownership, so there's an ownership aspect to this too. It would have to be once somebody designs plans, they own those plans. So to be able to sell them or reuse them somewhere else, that has to be the designer or the architect or the engineer is the owner of the plans, and that has to have permission to move on to the next place. So if a builder, for instance, had plans that he wanted to master and use 10 times using your scenario, that plan review based on very few minor changes, in this case, let's call it elevation issues, are almost non-existent because everything's pretty much at the same elevation. Yeah. So that would expedite the process for the plan review, and the submittal and the desire to do that would certainly increase the turnaround time. Okay. That's why a lot of these guys do master plans. Yeah. However, when the code changes, they have to update those masters.
And the code changes usually once a year?
Every 3 years, and we're getting close to another code cycle.
And when will that be?
Probably this time next year.
Okay, so we have another,
a whole new year for that.
Yeah, this 2016. So I believe it's about a year from now.
Right, thank you.
We're using international code?
Yes, the international codes are the codes that are adopted with the amendments through the state of California with the California Code of Regulations. So out of each international code, we end up with, I want to say 12 volumes, which are like real expensive. So that's one of the, every 3 years we have to budget for copious quantities of books.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Doing a great
No,
job.
let's just let the public know what we were teasing you about initially, though. that,
Okay.
Yeah. You may want to make your announcement.
Oh, well, now's as good a time as any. My last day as a county employee will be February 12th, 2016. And after 30-something years, it's time to go fishing.
Where do
And,
you think you're going to go fishing, Jeff?
well, I hope we get some water. But the interesting thing is the building department was, its inception, I think, was 53 years ago. I was here for 30 of those years, so I don't know.
You're just getting started.
Like I said, I'm just getting the hang of things.
Well, thanks for the
Thank you.
update and heads up on it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the
Same
change.
here.
You bet.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
As information, if you go down to Arizona or Southern California, there's plenty of water, plenty of fishing.
I don't think he's going to go there.
I don't blame him. The bridges are not very safe down there. When you mention international code, who is the publisher and the author of that international code? Where's the source of that? Is it coming from Washington, D.C.? Where's the source of that international code? I would like to have.
Agenda.
I'm asking,
Agenda 21.
pardon me?
Agenda 21.
No, it's Agenda 23 now. You're kind of behind the thing.
Actually, a good
Who is the publisher?
It is.
They give them part-time.
What's that stand for?
International Council of Building Officials.
Thank you, sir. That's what I wanted to hear.
And where are they at, Mr. Krovitz?
No, they're not big enough.
That I don't know.
Are they local, statewide, or are they United States or world?
Yeah, international.
Yeah.
Just the international code basically makes you think that it is a code that is global. For our intents and purposes, it's a United States code. There used to be, the regions of the United States had different codes through ours was the ICBO on the West Coast. There was 4 divisions, I think, within the state. So there was some consistency problems with the codes. When you can imagine, you spread different ideas throughout the North American continent. So the idea was to consolidate the code hearings, which are now different places within the United States. So the code hearings take place for what the code updates are going to be presented every 3 years. So what we have is the International Code Council, which are the building codes, which are developed in the United States, and then some states just take the code for what it is. The international code, they just use the one book. California, and I believe one other state, uses those codes, and then they make their California code amendments, which morphs into a considerable amount of reading. So.
And cost.
And cost, yes. So I think, and they've done that for a long time. The California Code of Regulations is turned into all these volumes, and the fire code, the plumbing code, the mechanical code, electrical code, and on it goes. So the international part of it is rather impressive sound, but it has brought unity to the code development within the continental United States. And of course, different types of events, catastrophic events, trigger code changes. The Loma Prieta earthquake and other earthquakes, a lot of different code changes developed from those events. And I would imagine that we have in our own backyard a condition here that will be examined for code updates as well. That's a thumbnail sketch of the codes.
And you know where they're located?
Internationally.
Good answer.
Actually, we have regions that are represented. We have in the West Coast, I think it's Alaska, Hawaii, California, Arizona. So we have, it went away from the representation locally to now it's kind of going back that way a little bit, but it's still the international codes, the Code Council, so.
So that first answer that you got, as time goes on here, expect more of that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it'll be
Shorter.
always something to pay attention to.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Okay, any other updates? Any updates from OES? None? But I'd like to hear you talk, Charlie.
Good morning. Charlie Simpson, Cal OES. I really don't have any updates. The work is progressing. The projects are coming in. It's basically on track as far as we're concerned to get as much of the work done here as we can before winter sets in and all of that. So I think the projects are moving forward, subject to your questions.
And maybe you're not the right person for this, but do you have any idea about the FEMA housing status of that?
Fred could not be here this morning. Fred Warenberg, the division supervisor for FEMA. I know that the work is progressing. They still have I believe, 3 commercial sites that they're looking at. Things are poised there. The low-risk sites, I think there's either 2 or 3 on the list there that, again, will be poised to be brought in, I believe, possibly this week. And the statement was yesterday that the commercial sites may handle the load and they may not need a group site, a community site. So I know that's their thought process at this point, but the wheels are turning.
Okay. Yeah. So no, they haven't received any type of expected date to see, more houses? Because I mean, when you're looking at the reports, there's like what, 4 FEMA houses or something like that.
I think you'll see.
I know it's not your responsibility.
I think you'll see the low risk appear very quickly this week.
Okay, that's good. And then
The moderate to high risk spots, based on the debris flow predictions, that still needs the analysis done before they can agree to cite any on those.
And that's the geological engineer.
Right, that you heard from
that just
Mr.
closed.
White.
Okay. So that is going to be then a little bit of a.
That's the next hurdle.
And as far as the group or the commercial sites, you think a couple weeks, a month? No idea. Based on reading the tea leaves.
I would say that that's going to come together very quickly in the next couple weeks.
Okay, well, I like that. It's good.
Yeah. No guarantees, but from what I've overheard the conversations about the housing, it should go quickly.
That'd be good.
Yeah, so one of the wonders that I've had is, we identified these commercial sites probably 2 weeks ago at least, maybe a little longer. And none of us have received any calls to assist in that or try to help with any of that, or I don't know if the county has been there to at least help or assist. Because, a lot of these local folks, even though they're commercial, sometimes could use a little bit of assistance on how to do things or seeing the big picture in many cases, because a lot of times they've been operating the same way for 30 years, right? And so I was just wondering if these local commercial sites have had the opportunity to be able to get all of the information that they could understand or need to be able to maximize their potential.
Okay. I really can't answer for FEMA on that. Those are direct negotiations between FEMA, with the landowner directly or the manager directly. I'm sure that if you were to reach out to them and ask them if they needed your assistance or needed any other help, that would be a good thing for them. But that is something that is handled directly between FEMA and those property owners.
Okay.
You know, I will say that there is a commercial site in District 4, and they've had a good working relationship with FEMA in the Corps and others in regards to exploring and looking at this particular site. And I've been involved in that loop, and I've been involved in various meetings, and that part has gone well. So I don't know, you know, this individual is very assertive and has a very viable business and has the know-how, so I think that's been helpful in this case. I don't know if this, I know the site is still in consideration, I just don't know at what priority it falls under right now.
Right.
And I think if any frustration at all, it's just, you know, our first initial site visit was the end of September, and it's just been the process to go through when you look at
A long,
surveying,
laborious
engineering, and all of those things. It was a much more, you know, it's almost like buying a piece of land and starting from scratch in some ways.
Yes.
But I know for this particular person who keeps in touch with me, it's been a doable process. It's just time consuming.
Yeah, and so my frustration with this is because I didn't even know about it until 3 weeks ago.
Know about what?
About FEMA looking for commercial sites. So that's something I'll deal with them. Thank you.
Do you have, on the emergency shelter process for the county, do you have any engagement in that at this point?
The emergency sheltering for future events,
Yeah.
future storms, is not really part of the fire recovery process, although we are concerned and are monitoring that. So, you know, I have been privy to several conversations that have been taken forth about what needs to be done for sheltering, but that's really not in the direct purview of the fire recovery operation.
Okay, and are you familiar with how other counties would normally do that? I mean, as far as the OES?
Yes.
And how, and so I just want to make sure that we're, you know, being, it needs to be, seems to be like it needs to be more efficient process. So I'm wondering if you have recommendations for that.
And I think that, I think Brian was getting ready to speak to that, but I think that some of the efficiencies were developed yesterday, and some of those hurdles that you saw on Saturday have been alleviated, and I don't think that will move forward. But again, I don't want to speak for your CAO's office.
Actually, Charlie's right on track. We did have a meeting yesterday. I can tell you that our local OES, as well as our Public Works Department, will be involved at some level. And we actually have a plan in place. We just need to see if we can get all the players to the table. We haven't talked about it yet because we don't have it completely formulated. But I think that we do have something that would be a little bit smoother down the line rather than trying to activate a shelter every time we have a storm event. I think we need to get something in place that is rather consistent throughout the winter.
Yeah,
and that's what we're working on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you'll, it doesn't look like we have a storm event or a really heavy freeze coming up anytime within the next week or so, but you'll keep us updated on
Sure.
on that process.
Absolutely.
So we can know, and then I can tell people, you know, out in the field about it.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that gentleman that Mr. Krovitz was talking about, Mr. Mike Miller, is working on that project as we speak.
Great, thank you.
So there was a shelter open over the weekend in
There
West
was.
Point?
In West Point. It was just for the day. They didn't have anybody show up.
Just because, I mean,
'Cause
the
that-
odds of anybody showing up there, it would have been truly remarkable. Because nobody knew that there was a shelter opening.
Yeah,
so-
well, I guess what I was leading to is that opened, because what I was hearing is that it seemed like the travel path of people more likely go to West Point than they would down to San Andreas.
That was the reason, that was the reasoning behind it.
And I really don't think so, for most folks. I mean, you have some on the very edge of the, the
Right.
road flat fire burn, but most people are going to associate with coming down to San Andreas for services like that, I think.
Yeah,
And I
because I
wanna
would
s-
think, to consider it, if you're consistent in that this place is always the shelter, and when you open a shelter, this is where it's at, I think that
Yeah, that
helps get
is
the
really-
mindset
yeah.
out there that this is the shelter location, so when it opens, everyone knows, and we're not guessing, is it West Point, or San Andreas, or Mount
Absolutely.
Ranch, or,
Well,
yeah, I think some consistency would be helpful.
I think that actually came as a surprise to, well, myself as well, because I'd requested the San Andreas site and then found out that it was actually West Point. And I think that was actually a call made by Red Cross.
Yeah. I think just consistency, no matter where it's at.
I would agree.
Going to be important.
Yeah,
So
I-
do we
I
have any
agree.
more OES questions?
Well, that wasn't an OES question, it just metamorphosized into.
Yeah, when
It
it's an
metamorphosized into local OES.
I think to answer your question, you'll see a more coordinated effort now to have shelters open in advance of when they're needed, and a good working relationship between the county agencies that need to coordinate to make those things happen.
Right.
Correct.
Also, OES is going to pay for it?
No,
And then, as far as, your, part of your responsibilities, does it include, like, the follow-up, there's still folks out there, even though we've tried to contact them out in the burned area that are, maybe have not been helped yet, do you guys do any actual outreach to individual landowners out there?
most of that has been happening with the FEMA disaster survivor assistance teams throughout the last, whatever it's been, 2 months that FEMA's been here, as well as your own county efforts through your Health and Human Services Agency and your other departments. But as you know, there's still people that do not want services, do not want to be contacted. I think every effort has been made reasonably to contact the people out in the burn area and give them information of what they need to do. Several have chosen to come forward and register and apply for benefits and things like that. So I think the outreach has been effective, but you're not going to reach everybody. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. Any other questions for Charlie? Any questions from the public for Charlie?
Thank you.
Maybe some of the folks who didn't respond are already covered by the flood zone, so should be no problem by FEMA. The other thing is I'd like to see is that sometime in the near future, after all the, so to say, dust settles, that locally get yourself organized, what you can do and anticipate, and either how to prevent it or minimize any and all potential, pretty much know what the potential problem is going to be and be ready for it. And you can start with, how about letting the public know how much property this county owns and where? Could that be worked into the system? I mean, folks, unfortunately, I got getting an education with other agencies. There's building and properties the county, the taxpayer, not the county, the taxpayers own, still paying for it, etc. But let's inventory it, both yours and like CCWD, the properties that the public owns that could be utilized instead of putting people out in the cold on a tarp. There's buildings around here that's standing empty that your taxpayer paid for. So it would be nice to have an inventory on that, and in a case of emergency, how quickly and usefully be utilized right away. Thank you.
Good morning, Rosemary Wilson from McCallum Hill. I just wanted to know, do we have an Office of Emergency Services in the county, and who would be the officer? Would it be under the sheriffs or someone else?
We do have a local OES, and it is housed in the sheriff's office. That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comment or from the public? Questions?
Too early for lunch.
Yeah. For you. Okay. Any other reports from county? Anybody else working in relation to Butte Fire would like to make any reports or get up and comment?
Sharon Torrance, County PIO. I have nothing new to report. We're still putting information out on community boards, on county website, on Facebook, on Twitter, reaching out to the public by phone. We're still getting calls, a fair number of calls from the public and the media. The interest from the media has dropped off some since the event in Paris. That's about all I have to report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sharon?
No, I do, Sharon. Can I speak with you a moment?
I almost got
Do
away.
you have a media list of all the media sources that you release information to?
Yes,
And those are local news agencies? Do they include agencies like Channel 3 in Sacramento, that type of stuff?
Sacramento, Stockton.
You want to email the
Local.
board that list? Is that, would you, that
Did
be
you,
helpful, Michael?
did you want a copy of that?
Just, yeah, I'd like to see where we're
Sure.
going with that.
That includes all the local radio stations
Yes,
and all that too?
yes.
See what kind
And
of
I
reaction we're getting
actually
from them.
reach out by phone to the local radio stations. And if there are rain events with shelters opening or road closures, we have that information prepared and ready to send out, whether it's in the middle of the night or weekends. We've been working with the sheriff's office on that.
Okay, so the sheriff's office, are they in control of Nixle, or is that your office?
I'm sorry.
Are you aware of Nixle?
Yes,
Okay, is that
The
controlled by the sheriff's office?
sheriff's office,
Oh,
yeah.
You don't have that control?
no, they control that. Actually, they will let me know when a Nixle alert goes out, and then we'll put it out through, or put out some sort of warning through our information flow.
Okay, information flow, that's a great term. Who's that?
That would be the media, the
Media?
The
Do we have
pub-
any direct email capabilities of people in our county? We don't have a database? or anything we use?
individuals, no. That would, Nixle should take care of that, but only for people that have signed up.
Yeah, I mean, we could, I mean, I imagine there's email lists for our planning commission and our board of supervisors, people who want to be notified of agendas and stuff, right?
Is that possible?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, I guess it'd be another Nixle, but it would serve a purpose.
Well, it's a pre-Nixle, so.
Yeah,
I
pre-Nixle.
believe that that the county is working on something, a system that would replace the reverse 911.
Right, all of
My
that.
next question,
Yeah.
reverse 911.
Yeah.
I mean, are we
That-
still currently using that?
I believe,
That's something that you're gonna have to ask Stan.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know he's working on that because it hasn't been as effective as it
Well,
was several years
As
ago.
soon as the phone lines go down, it doesn't work real well anyhow.
No, no.
But I have a question, could you send me a list of all of the, when you send out your email list, please?
Sure,
Thank
Yeah,
you,
just send it to the whole board.
you bet.
thank you.
We are also planning an event for the community and volunteers. Anyone that was involved in the recovery effort. And as I get closer to having dates and more information, I will keep the board apprised.
Is there any way we can measure our response from the media list? I mean, if we send something out, do we go into print media, electronic media, and see if it's effective and we're getting our word out? I guess what I'm trying to say, are we being effective? With the media?
I've seen a lot of our articles in the local papers. There was something in the Bee over the weekend. We've had a lot of activity from Channel 40, Channel 13, Channel 3, Channel 10. So they're obviously getting our releases and responding.
Do you have any personal contact with those media outlets?
Yes,
Good, because
yes.
that always helps.
I think
You
30
got a
years
name and
worth.
an email.
30 years worth?
Yeah,
Just covering all bases.
started when I was 10.
Okay.
Anything
Public
else?
comments?
Thank you very much.
Hi Sharon, my name is Mona and I am with the Hive, a Butte Fire Recovery Center. And I would like to know a couple of things. What is the event that stimulates your office's release of information such as shelter openings on the county website? And what is the process once you receive notification of putting it up on the website? How long does that take? And also, how does a volunteer or their organization get on your mailing list or an invitation for the community event you have planned?
I'm sorry, it wasn't.
I think it's a correct, she's addressing the board.
Yes,
Actually, my question is for Sharon.
but you still address
Is-
the board. That's
I'm
the
sorry.
protocol.
Hello, board. So my question to the board is, what is the event that stimulates the county information office to put information on the website, such as an opening of a shelter? And what is the process from your notification to having it actually appear on the internet, on the county website? And what is the timing on that? And how does one get an invitation to the community events you've just mentioned that are planned?
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
The information that we put out on the county website and on Facebook and Twitter are generated from the different departments, either environmental health, building department, health and human services. They contact us, or we get the information at one of our meetings, and then that information is put out to the public. Does that answer your question?
So what I'm hearing you say is that you get notification during business hours from one of those sources. Once you receive that notification, what is the process and/or how long does it take to appear on the county website?
Sometimes it's immediately, sometimes it's a couple of hours. If it's on a weekend, we actually have only had that happen once so far. We have the capability of putting it out remotely. And if need be, I did work one Saturday putting flood information up on our boards. As far as an invitation to the event, as soon as we get details worked out, there'll be notices everywhere, so.
Like public notices?
Yes.
All right.
And this kind of goes beyond just your special area, but, you know, FEMA's going to be gone, November 23rd is the last day to register. So what I want to make sure that we have
you know, kind of a release. I mean, I know you've done some around that, and it's been out there, publicized pretty well, but to continue to do that in the lead up to that, and then like what is, you know, now FEMA's gone, but don't panic. The county's still here. You know, is there stuff in preparation? And this is maybe for, you know, Brian, you know, for the larger group as well, but also for the information to be put out there to the public.
The FEMA center is going to close as it is, but it's still going to be there. From what I understand, it will. There's another acronym. It will be still open with SBA, and someone from FEMA, I understand, will still be there. We'll still be there. I don't think that they'll be gone.
Right, and so it's important to know specifically, you know, what's going to happen and where it's going to go, hours, contact, and then like, okay, you just woke up and realized that, you know, your house was destroyed in the fire. I mean, we heard about an individual today that was out of the area and came back and you know, just within this last week, filed for FEMA. So there's still going to be leftover, you know, folks that are just realizing what's going on. They're in shock. Who knows what the scenario? But so kind of a, you know, you can't register for FEMA, but there is these services available, kind of info packet for people. And so that's why I mean, maybe it's beyond just you.
We'll continue to be here.
Yeah.
And we do coordinate with Sharon and as the PIO for those purposes. She's also attending all of the meetings we have, so she's up to date on what the process is. But certainly, I would agree. We definitely want to get a message out before they actually close, saying that this is the final date and this is the final
Absolutely. We've been doing a countdown.
Yeah, and I've seen it out there. But what I'm also talking about, Brian, is like, you know, yeah, FEMA's closing the center, but there's still going to be there for people who register, right? But you can no longer register with FEMA after the 23rd, correct?
That is my understanding.
Right, and so then the question is, does, you know, what happens if there's other people out there who have not registered with FEMA? You know, is there you know, somewhere we could, you know, give them guidance on?
There's still an 800 number out there. Not being from FEMA, I can't really answer that, but we have an 800 number that's been widely publicized that I'm sure people can call and find out what to do if they haven't registered by the 23rd.
Now, they'll still be able to make contact with FEMA. That is the bottom line, and we need to get that message out as well. Charlie?
I keep trying to leave.
Charlie Simpson, Calum, yes. Just because the DRC closes, there still is the ability to register either by the 800 number or online. So those two are still available. The people who have already registered can check the status of their registration by calling the 800 number. I'm not sure if they can get to their registration status online or not. And then also, the other acronym that Sharon referred to is a DLAT, I believe it is. But once the DRC closes in the next room over here, there will still be limited services available from some of the government agencies that are here to assist. So not everything goes away on the 23rd. Just as a complete center where you can get full services, that is the piece that's closing.
Right, and I guess, you know, what I'm worried about is that people will hear, oh, FEMA's, you know, closing the center and think, you know, they've been abandoned. And so I want to make sure that we overemphasize that, no, you know, this is just a step in the process, but there's still support out there. We're still working on getting the FEMA houses out there to folks. We're, you know, there's all this, you know, process that's still going on. We haven't, you know,
we need to identify what limited services are going to be available so the people will be able to know. Unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly what stays and what goes.
Right, sure. Yeah.
And we'll absolutely get that out.
Okay, thanks.
And in addition to that, it might be advisable to even put up a small banner, as FEMA has all along here, when they do close the DRC, to say, FEMA DRC is closed, however, if you need assistance, contact, and have the 800 number on there, so people will know. You know, I'm sure they'll approach departments anyway, but if they don't and they walk up here for the first time, then they have an idea.
Yeah, great, thank you.
We'll make that happen.
They all think it's a Red Cross center now.
Which has moved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. All right, good. So, any other, yeah, there you go, Stan. Great.
Hi, Stan Moore from County IT. Came over to address some of the questions that had come up on the reverse 911 and what we're doing in that area. So the system in place that we've had in the county for quite some time, reverse 911, is coming up on end of life from the vendor support, and it's widely viewed as a system that has met its purpose within the county, but where we could be doing a better job. With areas like the questions had come up, for example, on the ability to use email. We have looked at different replacement solutions. We are in contract negotiations as we speak with the vendor that we believe we will be moving towards. We have every reason to believe that we can do a fast-track process where we should be able to have a new solution in place by the first of the year. We've been working with the Sheriff's Office on this, with some of the folks in dispatch that will be primary users. They are very familiar with the product that we're looking at. They know people in other counties that use the same system. There's a great deal of enthusiasm for this. So I've got a discussion tomorrow with the attorney on the other side. We've got a few things to work through on the contract, but we think that we will be able to be in place by the first of the year. It will use, similar to what we use today, where it will use landlines, but it will also give the individuals the capability to register their cell phone, to put an email address, to even give us their Facebook address if they so choose. So we will have numerous ways that we will be able to get the information out. We will go after emergency notification initially, but it can be used for other types of communication as well. One real nice feature of it, by the way, is it would be flat fee. It does not matter how many different communications we do during the year, and people will have the ability to opt in or opt out for select types of communication. So,
Will that include texting?
yes, it does. Yes, it does. So cell phone for either for voice or for texting. Yes, absolutely.
I don't want to get into the specifics
Sure.
of any contract negotiations or anything, but is this going to be a very expensive system, or are we looking over or under 300,000?
No. It's, thank you for the question. It is, don't want to tip my hat too much, but it is under $20,000 a year.
Oh, excellent.
And that is a hosted system, so we will not incur additional hardware fees either. Good. And it will tie in with our county GIS. There's a lot of really nice features about it.
So we're looking at the first year of contracts go well?
We are looking first of the year to be up and running, and then we will, and I won't take you through too many of the details, but we will do public outreach, and when we launch, we will reach out to everyone with a contact, and there's some technical reasons for doing that, but we will be asking people to give us their, if they would like to have a text, give us their cell number. If they would like to have email, register with that. So individuals will have the ability to ask and provide information in terms of how to communicate with them.
Good job. Excellent.
Any other questions?
I do. Clarification, is this an automatic where everybody's on the system, or people have to sign up for it?
Sure. It's both.
Okay.
We get information from our local telcos,
Okay.
from the phone company. We go through and scrub that as best we can. That will be a similar process to what we do with reverse 911.
Right.
We have a very high hit rate on getting all of those numbers loaded in. So that becomes our base. and associated with addresses, so that then the folks in dispatch can say, can draw a circle around, here's the area that I want to communicate to.
Right.
And push that out.
Okay.
So an individual would not have to register at all.
Right.
And they would still be included.
Yeah, that's, Bret Hart has a similar system, and everybody's in it.
Yes.
With basically a base number, which is their home number, but you can then go in personally and modify,
Yes.
i.e. a text, email.
Yes.
If you want it 7 different ways, it'll do that too.
That's
So,
exactly right.
similar.
If you've got someone who lives outside the county and they've got a
Right.
family member inside the county, they could register and get
Yeah.
those same emergency notifications.
Great, that's good.
Okay, other questions?
Okay.
Well, and then you coordinate this communication with the sheriff's department?
Yeah, yes, that's correct, Supervisor. We've been working with Lieutenant Huberty and Sergeant Whitney and their teams, yes.
And so how does that work as far as, I guess you help make sure that they're happy with the program, or?
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
then-
And we'll go through training. Public health will be part of this as well.
Okay.
There are places where they would be someone who would request that a message go out. Right now, we think that the messages, even though they could be sent out by multiple areas, that we would probably concentrate that through dispatch.
Just through the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Well, and I would find too, you probably need to develop some sort of policy, because I know the school went through that and had a advisory committee, because you don't want to just blast everybody for every single little thing that comes out, and people want to use it as a promotional piece to say,
That's
there's a flu clinic coming up.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
And when we've talked to the other counties, whether they have used this or other products,
Yeah.
that's some of the places where they have had learnings and where they have said, if we had this to do over again, we may not have
This is
done
the
it for as much.
top criteria or something along those lines.
That's
'Cause people get
exactly right.
inundated and,
And just a question on, during the fire, the initial fire, was reverse 911 implemented, or, I mean, was that in place? Did that?
Our existing reverse 911 was used on a limited basis. It was not as widely used as it perhaps could have been. One of the reasons for that, though, was just the speed of the fire.
Right.
Where we talked to the SO and asked why not. He said, we just didn't have time. We were just going door to door and telling people, get out. So,
And do you think this system would help with that? I mean, it sounds more like that was just it didn't matter really what technology you'd have, because it was really it was moving too fast to.
I suspect, I didn't ask this specific question, but I suspect in some of those early areas, Mokelumne Hill, they may not have used it, but when the fire was spreading rapidly and heading over towards Mountain Ranch, they perhaps could have used it there, where they had a little bit more lead time.
And it's more effective mainly because it reaches out to the different types of the cell phone and the
Yes.
text through the cell phone and the email, and that way it makes it more effective for the modern era.
That's exactly correct, and any of these systems require some type of electronic communication capabilities. So as we get more and more of the landlines reestablished, that will certainly improve our ability to reach out to folks.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that update. I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, folks.
thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's move on. Oh, wait, before that, I have something that I want to share. And what this is some questions that I put out on Facebook. There were 2 simple questions. And so I promised folks that I would read the results of that. And there's a lot of different things here. Some of it is really good, and some of it is not so good, but it is indeed communication. And so I think it's important that even though that people do not agree with everything that's said here, it is still important to share. So I'm just going to read right through it. So my questions were, What do you think we need to do to respond to the needs of the victims and the environment of the Butte fire? That was one question. The second question was, what can we do in the future to prevent this from happening again? So the summary of that for immediate needs is housing and safety. And this is all from the public. This is not from me. This is from many different respondents, and pretty close to, I would say, 30. Housing and safety, getting people to safe housing was the consistent theme. If they were unable to return to live on their property, then some other form of temporary housing was requested. Human essentials, locations to people, for people to shower and do laundry are a common request. Access to clothing and basic needs via long-term donation site were mentioned in all of these answers. Communications is a big one. Government, sufficient staffing to move the cleanup forward was mentioned and as a concern. Representation from all county districts and disaster of this nature was also been a critical and deficient. Property cleanup, assistance from cleanup of burnt brush, trees, and for individual parcels, and I brought that up earlier. So I'll just get to the actual responses. Housing and safety. And I'm reading this because I feel that people, like to be heard. And a lot of them can't show up here. A lot of them are afraid to stand up in front of the podium. And a lot of these are already taken care of and in process, and a lot of them might be a decent idea. So I would just ask that if any of the department heads or staff or anybody think it's valuable to be able to come back and give some answers to those things that I'm going to mention here, that would be really great at our next meeting. Can't do it today, obviously, because we're moving on, but at least I want to be able to get them out. So I would love to see how we can get these victims housed safely on their own property with the red tape of FEMA slowing it down. Without the red tape. Is there any prioritized cleanup for those who have nowhere else to go, so it can be safer and temporary housing would be allowed? Could a clean site be found where a mobile home park could be installed and trailers parked there for the people to stay in the night instead of sleeping in dirt in tents? Does someone have flat acreage, and can an adequate septic system be quickly installed to have Sweet Pea Guy put a tanker there to deal with sewage? The establishment of short-term shelter when the weather is bad, engaging nonprofit agencies so that they can be established in our area. These nonprofits would work directly with those in need. Agencies with like the Red Cross, who took our donations and disappeared, should not be welcome back in our community. And I'm telling you, I'm just reading this stuff like it was. And they have no stake here from the first-hand accounts of what I was told. Did not perform their role very well. Secure, warm, safe, temporary housing out of the burned area, then provide shuttle transit service to take people to their property each morning and back down to the temporary quarters each night. Have the sheriff's office or community security force staff and roadblock to check that only persons with property are part of the recovery operations were able to get in. That was a big issue. I've heard that like dozens of times. A homeless shelter. Those who are unable to return to their property due to the need of environmental cleanup establish a shelter or shelters in their immediate communities to ensure warmth and safety. The old jail could be revamped for folks living in their trailers, cars, tents as a shelter. Trailer park assistance. Placing services where the services are needed. Driving distance. Gas has been an issue since the very beginning. Saying the services are available in the county and not taking the services to people is a huge disservice and shows the complete disconnect in regards of socioeconomic status, especially upcountry. We need rapid rehousing number and then we should look at alternative power so we stop building power lines in remote areas. Housing, tree removal, solar power. Human essentials, put trailers that had the showers back so people are trying to tough it out on their land can at least take a hot shower. Bring back laundry and shower facilities to Mountain Ranch and Railroad Flat. I'll email this to all of you guys if you like. Change the county code to allow for composting toilets. Set up laundry and shower facilities at Mountain Ranch and Railroad Flats. Reopen a recovery donation site there in Mountain Ranch. And that about laundry, okay, so somebody else liked that one too. What do people get resources like clothes and so on that are not able to be here when all the donation centers were here? Yeah, it's great, FEMA helps, but what do you do and live till FEMA does their cleanup due to having young children? Communications. Since many of these victims can't or won't leave their properties, can someone get up to them to find out what they need from us? We need an emergency siren in landline recorded call system, informing us of what's going on and which way to get out. I am a widow and the telephone's not working, so I can't call for help. Call service is a must during the disaster relief time. It is very difficult without it, to say the least. The government. Based on inspection needs final certification, grow the county inspection employee base, even if it's short-term temporary employment, to get more final inspections, property certifications completed. Likewise, enhance the county's permit department's personnel to facilitate the faster permitting process. Let's keep in mind, representative for the hardest hit district has essentially been, sorry about that one, and I don't agree with that one actually. Use some of those FEMA funds to pay temporary county help and regarding insurance. Will folks in this county even be able to get fire insurance in the future? We need the government funded program like flood insurance, since corporate entities are most interested in hard profit than actually insuring and helping. Ensure all Board of Supervisors are on deck and present when disaster of this type is occurring. And Calaveras has been never tested through annual or biannual mock disaster sessions, in which, by the way, we have. I need help clearing up burnt brush and trees, help burning, salvage, logging, and burning trees. Put a detailed emergency plan together with surrounding counties and agencies. I noticed that all the response immediately after the fire was contained seemed to be slow and uncoordinated. Maybe we can start having drills of natural disasters twice a year in conjunction with other responding agencies and counties. All right. So everything so far, it kind of repeats itself over and over. But I just want to mention the folks that sent some of this stuff in. These are folks in the community. A lot of them are people that are volunteering to help other people. So they're seeing this stuff firsthand, and they are engaged. A lot of them are living the pain of this disaster still, and may not understand the big machine that has to move faster, you know. So housing and safety, use what is already there. If the old jail is already in there, use that. Maybe some of the people who are trying to camp in tents would be willing to manage the jail. Lots of tradesmen and such who could have something useful to do instead of just struggling in the wet ash. That was Bob Vanagut. Mona has one here. Emergency preparedness plan. Jeff Tolhurst at Columbia College taught a great emergency plan preparing in one of my GIS classes suggested by Mona. There was a drill for, we just had a drill according to Chip Dingman. He responded. Just had a drill in April of this year. So the drill helped with some of the response to the fire, but didn't cover how fast the fire moved. And that is absolutely true. So. To keep it from happening again, you educate everybody about establishing proper safe fire zones in their respective properties, and doing so as a vast community, proper fire-safe landscaping practices. And that was Dudley, Charles Elliott Dudley, Jr. And Candace Mills wrote, there should be some kind of nixle or landlines too, maybe. I always plug in my old style phone during the outage of power. I don't know what the solution might be, but people were completely in the dark about what the heck was going on, and the evacuation was really hard. And yeah, and that's one of the things that, from the beginning, we all struggled with that, and still are trying to find a good way to solve that issue. I have seen other locations when a tower was not the way to go for coverage, so they added antennas, the power poles. Why not use utility property in the county for cell towers? That was Joe Fontana. Mary Boblet, we know a private company will invest in the area for telecommunications, that is a failure in the marketplace. That is when the government steps in with some kind of funded program. Rural areas got telephones in the 20th century through the Universal Service Program. Today, the federal government offers the Connect America Fund. I suggest the county immediately consider that. Michael Magana, revised recent adopted social media use policy to make it less restrictive. Most communications during and after the fire was happening online through social media sites such as Facebook, and still is. Not sure why people are hesitant to use social media in the county level. It is not a new way of communicating, it's just another way to communicate. The layers of approval complicate the department's response to an incident. Decisions should be made at a department level so that departments that utilize social media can provide real-time accurate information to the public. And then Tricia Kalk, putting a proposal together now for a relief center. I have site designated key players identified and a 501c3 in the works. This is the kind of thing we want support through Motherlode Emergency Disaster Relief Organization. We can help the area that'll be addressed in the plan, including setup, receiving and distributing donations, communications requirements, etc., and include laundry and showers in the plan. So this is kind of just a synopsis of what people are thinking right now. There's been a whole bunch of other things in the past that I've responded to. I'm trying to respond to every single person, which is, I got to a point where it was like they were coming in faster than I could actually respond because I don't type real fast. But really, what I see here is questions by people that are trying to be informed. And right or wrong, trying to be informed is, in my mind, the issue. And we can always do a better job at that. I think we've taken great strides, but sometimes when you listen to just one sentence from somebody, it could actually produce something that makes that improvement. So I don't see anybody here attacking us in any way and saying that we have been deficient, really. What I see is that everybody interested in making sure that as we move on, that we prepare for the next one and try to improve on that. So I wanted to thank the folks that came online to answer these questions for me. Please continue to ask them, and appreciate that. Thanks.
I have a quick question. So, looked like a couple of obvious ones on that list was the shower and laundry service. Yeah. So, it would be nice to have I don't know, was that OES, FEMA, county, all kind of a joint effort there?
What's your thought about that, Brian?
Well, actually, There's a couple sources. I want to say, was it the Southern Baptist Organization that brought in the laundry trailers at first at no cost to the community, and that was great. That was during the event.
That was Southern Baptist?
I believe that was who that was. And I'll just say that our nonprofits and our religious-based organizations have done a phenomenal job, by the way, through this event. They've kind of been unsung heroes. I will tell you that we're on a third phase, real quickly here, of having the CCC here to assist Public Works. This is their 5th week. We'll go through 6 total by the time we're done with this. We're housing them up at Camp Lodestar right now, but before that, we were housing them at Mountain Ranch. Actually, they were housing themselves in tents. And we did have a trailer out there for showers and washers and dryers, and for just a few days of use, the amount was absolutely stunning as far as the cost was concerned. We thought it actually was a mistake, so we ran it by Cal OES and said, is this really what these people make? And the answer was yes. So as Supervisor Edson stated the other day, we could have built a laundromat for that amount. And he probably wasn't too far off, quite frankly, and that was 4 days, 5 days worth of use of one of these. So again, when the Southern Baptists came in and set their unit up, we were very, very fortunate because of what the rental of these units are really come to. I'm sure that these are the same contracts or similar contracts that you see with CAL FIRE when they set up their fire camps, et cetera. So I understand it's a business, but the other side of it is it is a very significant amount of money. And that's just a few days.
It was 7. Was
Well,
it?
well, I think the first bill came in for 4 or 5, I think. But
Was that including both shower and laundry, or
Yes.
just the laundry was the?
no, shower and laundry,
Combined.
right.
So
How much you say it was?
It's over $100,000.
145,000.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we thought it might have been a typo, so we ran it by state OES, and they came back and confirmed, see Charlie back there with a grin on his face, that indeed that was the right number. So these are expensive units, that's the bottom line.
Okay. And then on a different subject, what is the name of that response team, community response team, or something like that, long-term recovery by FEMA? It's like a component of FEMA, or like a...
No, that's OES.
I mean, who like the one that Alan Cinders, the chair of?
I think you're talking about Calaveras Recovers is who you're talking about. It's actually a task force. It's a long-term task force. Right. It's called Calaveras Recovers. And that's local. Right, but
isn't that, wasn't that responding to like kind of one of the steps in the FEMA program?
Well, they actually are part and parcel of the overall recovery. If you look at the Cal OES charts and you look at our local OES charts, and we have, as an example, environmental health as part of the debris removal, as you know. We have administration part of logistics. So what they are, they're one of those sections, those task forces that are actually based and focusing on long-term recovery.
Okay, and is it possible to hear from them on what they're doing?
Absolutely.
I'm part of Calaveras Recovery.
Do you want to give an update?
They also, just so you know, Supervisor Wright, they're also attending the meetings on Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay.
My name is Mona Baruti, and aside from being part of the Hive, the Butte Fire Recovery, I'm also on 2 committees for the Calaveras Recovers Group. I am on the committee for project management and on the committee for unmet needs. The Calaveras Recovers Group is a nonprofit group. They have no 501(c) status, but they have fiscal sponsor through the Amador Community Foundation. Right. They are focused on long-term recovery. Their purpose is to provide what FEMA is providing when FEMA leaves. It is part of the process of FEMA leaving and making sure that the community can stand up for itself. So in essence, that is their mission, along with fulfilling unmet needs of people who have fallen through the crack or are not sufficiently supported by FEMA. So their focus is on people who have applied for FEMA and people who have long-term unmet needs. And so that's pretty much what I can tell you about that.
And do you guys have a regular scheduled meetings?
They're very new in the process. They've had 2 meetings with the community. Their organization is like a wheel, and they have several different types of committees. And those committees are supported by local organizations like the Hive, like the Resource Connection, like Common Ground Senior Services. So they are utilizing the resources within the community of volunteers who are already supporting short-term and long-term needs. And they don't have a regular schedule. They're still very, very new in the process. They're working to put up a facility that they can run out of.
Okay, so it's just in the beginning stages?
Yeah,
basically?
they're very much like any of the other small organizations, like the Hive, like the Common Grounds, like Resource Connection, and those are all people who are involved with their project, you might say.
Okay, thanks. Debbie?
I'm going to add to that. I was invited to attend their board meetings and have for the last 3 weeks. This board meets every Thursday at the Mormon Church here in town at 2 o'clock on Thursdays. And the executive committee is in attendance, which is Alan Sender as chair, Lori Giannini as vice chair, Rob Blind as secretary, Tony Ann Fisher as treasurer, and Marcus Collange as public relations. So it's at this meeting that they sit and hear from the various other committees and reports, looking at those unmet needs, looking at long-term recovery, and it's a joint effort of community service organizations, faith-based organizations and such. And they now have their, you might say, legal papers in place in regards to their mission statement, their organization structure. They have the ability to work through Amador Foundation. The reason they went with Amador Foundation is that there is a staff there that can help facilitate their needs versus the Calaveras Community Foundation. They're encouraging folks who have donations to donate to the Amador Community Foundation. There's a special fund there specifically to this group. And right now, they're kind of sorting through, as they hear from committees and community outreach, what that specific need is. And right now, it's kind of the discussion of this housing and what that means, and, you know, who the priority focus is. Kind of women, excuse me, not women, but families and children is kind of the focus if you were to prioritize housing needs and that sort of thing. But again, it's still in a communication mode and kind of, you know, gathering more information and continuing to do that outreach. So, and they do, I don't know, last meeting they were trying to find someone who could attend the Monday meetings on a pretty regular basis, because these folks are all working people and community-oriented people. It's not like they had a lot of time to come to another meeting. So that's kind of where they're at. But they do want to be kept in the loop and part of the overall organization structure.
And they are currently looking for, to place an office in,
They have.
in the Mountain Ranch.
It's my understanding they have found a location.
Well, they were going to, I know that Susan Galvin, who is the financial officer, was going to staff the sheriff's office outstation across from Sender's Market. That has not happened. That was planned about 3 weeks ago, and I don't know what the issue is with that. I confirmed that with Al Sender and with Susan Galvin.
Okay. Just recently?
That what they're.
Yes.
Just recently.
So what they're gonna do is, what they plan on doing is, dropping a pole in the Mountain Ranch Park area, probably in a parking lot, and put an office there. That's what they're trying to do now.
Or modular?
Yeah, I think they're, whatever they're gonna get, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions?
No, I think I'm glad to hear that it's moving along, and maybe that could be part of the information put out to folks when FEMA leaves, that this is part of the process that's planned, so
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. The FEMA is working in an advisory capacity with them and through the smaller organizations that sit on their committees so that we can reduce duplication of services and so that our little organizations can be more efficient.
Yeah, so the PIO should have this out already.
Okay.
There's actually been publicity in the newspapers about the organization of the
They
event.
did do a release, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a committee they handle, and that's Nikki Stevens and Marcus Colange, who are spearheading the Facebook page, the web page, and the media sources. So maybe they can hook up with Sharon and making sure that they have all the media contact information that Sharon has.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
Yeah,
I was
and
thinking,
please do
yeah.
that for the other organizations because we're still autonomously working with them.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
Oh, thank you.
No, thanks a
Thanks
lot
for letting me
the
speak.
report, yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion around Butte Fire recovery? Great. Thank you. All right, let's go to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Y'all were still in public comment?
on the Butte Fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kaz Tomaszewski, Oak Hill. Something you said actually I found really interesting. Someone had proposed signing up with a program that would get the county funding to put cell towers. Is that anything that we're interested in? Has that been researched at all? I was just curious.
Those were questions that were sent to me or suggestions. So, everything's on the table until we run it down and find out we can't do it, or we run it through and find out we can. So
Well, that's what I was asking,
yeah.
if it had been pursued before you receiving that comment before.
It's something that we've been talking about since day one of the fire, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've, Cliff and I have been talking to AT&T, and there's actually a site in, just above Mountain Ranch that can be co-located. At AT&T, it's an existing tower. So we're hoping that AT&T can work with the local property owner and communications specialists to actually put a permanent tower there. So it's just a matter of, they have specific guidelines that they have to follow. So
Understood.
that is one example of how we're working with AT&T to get that cell service.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. All right, I'd like to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll move on to item number 2, please. Okay?
Yes, Mary Rose.
Oh, so now you're going to confuse me.
No. Go ahead and do number 3.
Okay? We okay, Susan? All right, so number 2, adopt a resolution for... 3? Okay, number 3, authorize county's participation in Natural Resource Conservation Services Emergency Watershed Protection Program. Make finding that a participation confers substantial public purpose and authorize the CAO to execute the application and claim forms.
Are we moving 3 up? Did I miss something?
3.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mary Rose Rutikanga for administration. The item before you is in regards to the National Resource Conservation Services Emergency Watershed Protection Program. And this was actually something that was brought up earlier in the board meeting this morning. The NRCS has identified 5 properties within the burn fire area that fall within the eligibility of this watershed protection program. The properties are obviously owned by private landowners. And so the board is being asked to make a finding that it's substantial public purpose, because the monies that will be used, obviously the public monies will be used on private property. The 5 properties that were identified were were properties identified through the CAL FIRE watershed report that was distributed that had originally identified 26 properties. So it is my understanding that they could potentially increase additional properties beyond the 5. Right now, as it stands, the total program costs $67,000, of which 75% of that would be covered through NRCS. The 25% would then be the county's responsibility to pick up, which is for a total of $16,837.50.
Is that cash, or can we do
It can
in-kind
be,
services?
it can be cash or in-kind services. We have identified, obviously, Public Works has talked about it again this morning. We have identified in-kind sources as well that we could be used towards that 25%.
Sounds good.
And these properties will be to mitigate the debris flow risk that obviously, yeah.
My concern is the length of time when you identify something like this and that we actually do something about it.
Well, it is my understanding, and I apologize, I thought the Director of Public Works would be here. I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but what he had told me was, once the application is processed and the homes are identified, they have up to a certain amount of time, I believe it's 10 to 14 days, to go in and get the properties cleaned up and mitigate that debris flow risk. The report that was attached to the board item talks in regards to what items and what will be done on the 5 properties for the debris flow risk.
Okay, so who is they have 14 days?
NRCS, the contractors will come in.
Okay. So the property's identified.
And they've already identified the properties. The properties are already identified.
Property's already identified.
Yes, sir.
It goes to Public Works?
Yes, it goes through Public Works, and they will work with NRCS to get in there and get
So Public Works has the
installation done.
authority to say, do it?
Yes.
And he doesn't have to go through any other hoops? He doesn't
I don't
have to
believe so.
contact-
I believe NRCS will be contracting the contractors to go in and get the work done.
Okay, so he has the authority to tell them to do it. He doesn't have to contact anybody else, and
So really what the county's being asked to do is to sponsor the project.
Okay.
We won't be necessarily, we will be the sponsor, but it will be NRCS that is actually going onto the properties and doing the work. Through working with Public Works in conjunction with Public Works, but it's really going to be a project headed and done by NRCS. And we, as the sponsor, are the funneling agency in which to get the program paid for. And probably Jeff can speak a little bit better as to, Jeff, they wanted to know the timeline for the NRCS project.
Jeff, or Director Krovitz, I had asked, when one of these properties identified, my concern is, and the concerns that I hear from constituents who are sending me notes on a regular basis, these properties identified, from that point, how long does it take to actually get them taken care of? And have we put any roadblocks up in your way to get that done, that we can maybe solve?
So I don't know if Mary Rose, and I'm sorry for being late, if Mary Rose explained that in the PFWRT, the post-fire watershed assessment team, they went around, found 26 sites that they identified as being potential threat to life or threat to property. Of those sites, there were, I believe, 4 that represented residences, established residences that could potentially be in harm's way for debris flows. NRCS then approached me saying that we have an emergency watershed program where we could mitigate these sites on the same cost share program as some of our other programs, which is 75 NRCS, 25 to state and local, of which the state takes 75 of the 25, leaving the 6%. NRCS then went out and did field assessments. One site dropped out because it was a non-habited structure. 3 sites remained. They reached out to homeowners and received cooperation. They went over their assessment or their mitigation plans with me, and we made a few minor modifications. And in that process, they added 2 additional sites. One that they discovered when they were out in the field, and one that they received a telephone call from. So there were currently a total of 5 residences potentially in harm's way. And the program application has been complete, and NRCS is currently working on an MOU with the county because they need the local sponsor and some guarantee of the match. Once again, the match is not of a horrible concern to me because NRCS is working on adding an additional 10% or 85% on their side, which means that the state would then cover the rest, and there would be nothing on the county. I've also reached out to CAL FIRE, and they are tasked to be able to help with sandbag placement and some of the protective measures identified in the program. So right now we are working through the process, and then in answer to your question, once the MOU has been accepted and work starts, we're theoretically supposed to be completing the mitigation in 10 days. So it is a very quick turnaround. And for the most part, the sites, the work on each of these sites involves sandbagging for diversion of debris flows, the placement of K-rail, again for debris flow diversion, and it's those types of tasking that are meant to mitigate debris flow hazard to these residences.
Okay, so you can get this going without having to go back to administration or to the board, or we've given you the authority to say, hey, let's make this happen?
The board item is asking for the board to get the authority for the CAO to sign on the MOU and the application form to get it going and to get the program started.
Okay.
Additionally, if we purchase supplies such as K-rail through this program, it then becomes the property of the county.
And trash bins too?
Trash racks?
Yeah.
For the most part, the trash racks would stay in place.
Jeff, are the sites that you're talking about the sites that were listed in this?
3 of them are,
Okay.
and 2 additional have been added. One has been added, I believe, on Murray Dale Road, further up, that
Okay.
private road, and the 5th site, I can get it, I've got it in my notebook.
That's okay. That was kind of the basis for this.
That was the initial basis for that, correct.
Sounds good.
So just a note that this is attempting to respond to these sites that were identified on a very cursory and immediate review. So there's always a potential that more sites will come forward, and we would have to return again.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Any board comments?
Make a motion to approve?
Second the motion.
I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte, second by Supervisor Kearney.
Kearney.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's 5-0. Okay, number 2. So number 2 is, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, number 2 is actually a request for adopting a resolution for a local state of emergency for tree mortality. This is something that came up at the board meeting, I think I want to say 3 weeks ago. Supervisor Wright brought it up, and we're bringing it forward. Just a little bit of background. Back on January 17th, 2014, the governor proclaimed a drought state of emergency as the state continued to move into the most severe drought in known history, mainly because of obviously below average rainfall, but more than that, the lack of snowpack. On July 31st, 2015, the governor proclaimed yet another state of emergency due to a series of wildfires that were fed in part due to the tree mortality as caused by the bark beetle. I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to go to the high country or even the mid country over the last even month, but there are entire swaths of areas that were alive 2 months ago that are dead today. This is a real, obviously, epidemic, and again caused by the drought. On October 30th, the governor declared yet another state of emergency to further proclaim the state of emergency due to the tree mortality within several regions of the state. Right now, the Forest Service and CAL FIRE have estimated that approximately 22 million trees are now dead due to drought and bark beetles, with many more millions actually expected to die before the end of the calendar year. So with that said, the resolution is actually rather consistent with what was proclaimed by the governor and the state resolution as well. And what it does is, if this board adopts this resolution proclaiming a local state of emergency due to pervasive tree mortality, we will have an opportunity to access some of the things that the governor has proclaimed in the state resolution. And just a couple of those I'll go through. I think that list is something like 19 different items, but I'd like to just touch on a couple so that the public has an understanding and the board has an understanding of what we're talking about. Number one, states, the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, California National Resources Agency, California Department of Transportation, and the California Energy Commission shall immediately identify areas of the state that represent high hazard zones for wildfire and falling trees using best available science and geospatial data. We're already doing that, obviously. The idea is to remove dead or dying trees in the high hazard zones. Part of it is, why the Energy Commission? Well, power lines, as an example. Why Department of Transportation? Highways and roadways, but especially state highways. This also opens the door to possible federal assistance for removal of dead and dying trees adjacent to highways. The other issue is the Department of General Services, that's the state of course, will identify state facilities in California Department of Transportation, shall identify highway and road corridors where wood chips produced from dead trees can be used as mulch. We've been thinking a lot about the Butte Fire and what that means here. I mean, there's a couple things that are very important. The mulching, the ground cover. One of the things I didn't previously state, but I have stated in past meetings, is remember that when these trees burned during the Butte Fire, as they burned and when the fire was out, they give off a chemical called terpamine. The terpamine attracts the bark beetle. When the bark beetles come in attracted to the terpamine, they don't go after the dead trees. They go after the live ones that are next to the burn, or the remaining trees that are next to the burn. So what we can expect in Calaveras County is an intensifying, if you will, of potential bark beetle kill. Not a guarantee that's going to happen, but the potential is there simply because of the fire. Something that we have done, and I'm going to put on one of my old hats as the former air pollution control officer for the county. We've always encouraged the tool of prescribed burns in this county. And mainly that's been for fire prevention, ironically. And so one of the things that the governor's proclamation states is that CARB, or the California Air Resources Board, and CAL FIRE shall work together with federal land managers and the US EPA to expand the practice prescribed burns. Again, this is kind of old hat to the community. You know, we see the Forest Service doing prescribed burns in the fall, typically here, also in the spring. It's not uncommon to see some of these draws fill up with smoke due to these prescribed burns. Yes, it's inconvenient, but what it potentially saves is extremely significant. And then finally, what I'd like to state in this, well, and this is something else that's being done in the county. There's one provision where CAL FIRE and the Cal Energy Commission shall work with bioenergy facilities to accept forest biomass in high hazard zones to identify potential funds to help offset higher feedstock costs. I mean, we have our CHIPS programs. We have programs in the county that are looking at, you know, reusing these forest products. Somebody made the comment earlier today, and I think it was Jeff Krovitz, you know, what can we use these trees for once they're burned? And my understanding is the burned trees, if you get them in time, you can still harvest them and use them as forest product for our lumber mills. If you don't get them in time, and I don't know what that timeline is, if it's 12 months or 18 months, the wood is no longer good to harvest that way. The beetle trees, however, my understanding they're a lost cause. So with that said, you can't really look at those beetle trees and say, let's pick them up and harvest them for lumber at this point. So the governor's idea of doing the chipping and using the mulch, you know, really sounds like a pretty good idea, especially for areas like Calaveras County where we had the burn. And I believe it was Jeff that also stated that that's much more nutrient rich than, of course, throwing straw on the ground. So it's a win-win. What's important for the last of the governor's resolution is that, like many of these states of emergencies, it actually helps waive guidelines or regulations in order to carry out the order. So in other words, it moves some obstacles out of the way, similar to what this board has done early on with trying to streamline the process so people could get their permitting moved forward in a timely manner, and or they could stay on their property more than 3 weeks as what was the current code, the past code regulations for code compliance. So Dana Ellis has just returned, and I don't know if she'd like to make any comments on this item. Dana, we've just covered the basics and the background of the governor's declaration and talked about how it kind of married into the Butte fire with the beetle and et cetera.
The dead trees. Hi, Dana Ellis with Cal OES. As Brian mentioned, the governor did issue an executive order on October 30th, hopefully to get more attention at the federal level of the fuels in the forests. And with this starting at the state level, CAL FIRE and OES will be putting a task force to prioritize those areas. One component of this proclamation executive order is the provision of CDAA, which I know you're all familiar with the Butte fire, to allow the county and or utility districts that have dead trees, these are not burnt trees, these are just bark beetle infested dead trees, the removal of those that are threatening public infrastructure. And so that is a policy that's consistent with what you guys are doing is very consistent with what Tuolumne is doing. They've already had a tree that just fell on somebody's house about 6 months ago. Nobody was hurt, but it is a very big issue. I know Brian lives in Tuolumne County, but it's a very issue that's expanding. So what you're doing by adopting this is very consistent with what other Sierra counties are doing.
A quick
Any
question for you,
questions?
Dana. On that CDAA, would that be
Yes.
the 75-25?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is an application and a plan that would be developed. It's not an automatic thing, and it just covers the public or county or utility publicly owned land. It's not going to cover tree removal on private land. We are still asking the question, could it cover a tree that's on private land that's threatening a structure on public land? So that question is still out for debate. As soon as we get clarification, I will let you know what comes up with that. But they will require some sort of a plan at the county level to prioritize and see what your commitment is as a county to removing these dead trees.
Well, something was brought up on a couple of topics ago about chippers, and we weren't talking about tub grinders that our Public Works Director was, just recently purchased, but we're talking about smaller chippers. Down the line, is it possible that the county might be able to purchase some smaller chippers and be part of this program?
As part of to remove the dead trees?
Correct.
As part of the application process?
Yes.
I don't see why not. I can't speak as whether it would be eligible or not.
I understand.
But I would definitely add that into your application, that would be something that you would need
Very
to
good.
complete the threat of the dead
Right.
dead trees to the public.
And the nexus that I'm trying to tie there is the fact that the governor, in one of his items, his bullets with inside his resolutions, talks about the chipping process. So we'd like to see, I think that would be very, very advantageous for the county.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I think that you can, for some of the bug trees, you can use the lumber for some of those trees from what people have told me. It's similar to the burn trees. You have to get them within a certain period of time, and some of them aren't useful, but others are, just because they don't penetrate all the way through the wood, and so there is timber value in, to some degree.
There could be. I wouldn't know if there is or not.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah.
I'm not a logger, but
Yeah.
that's what I've been told by individuals. So.
I would chime in with that. When I lived in Tuolumne County, some years ago, there was a big bark beetle infestation, and they were actually harvesting it, but you can't let it sit and rot for years. It's fairly prompt, and the firewood value it's still there. I mean, you can buck it up and split it, and you can burn it in your fireplace.
To add on to Supervisor Wright and Supervisor Kearney, yeah, they are harvestable. Unfortunately, the folks that are removing the trees, to be actually good for mill, they have to be 10'6", and if they're below that length, they're firewood. But they can take the bark beetle trees and harvest that as good lumber. And I understand this applies only to public property and infrastructure.
Yes.
In my district, and I'm sure in Supervisor Wright's district, we have numerous trees that are attacked by the bark beetle on private land.
Yeah, that's where
And it's really it's an epidemic, to be quite honest with you. I mean, we're probably looking at 40% of our trees just up in District 3, actually.
In Calaveras County, I think it's by the end of the year, it'll be 40%.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is something that,
Oh, yeah, it's obvious. You can see it. I mean, it's,
and for the benefit of the folks in our audience and the folks in TV land, you can identify the bark beetle trees because you'll see a stand of pine trees where you may have 3 dead trees together. And in a short period of time, those dead trees will become a torch. And then we have a canopy fire situation. In Blue Lake Springs housing development, where I live, in Meadowmont, up in the Highway 4 corridor, elevation above 3,700 feet, very predominant. And our people are actually under some homeowners regulations in our fire safe status in Blue Lake Springs. They're actually getting quotes of anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000 to remove these dead trees. And they just can't afford to do it. And then, once you do have the opportunity to get a tree, you have to dispose of the wood. You can't just take this wood and put it on other people's property. That's actually against fire codes. So we have a 2 or 3 pronged problem here that we don't have a solution for. This is a good step with public lands. And hopefully that we can be able to do something with our private lands in our forests, because this blight will not stop on its own. I know we have a drought problem, I know we have a bark beetle problem, but that's our problem now, and we have to find a solution.
Yeah, will this declaration, you know, free up any funds that we could use for private lands, or allow us to harvest those trees easier, or? I mean, does
You're
it
still
help-
working on that, right?
does it
Yeah,
help private property owners?
not this particular executive order doesn't cover private lands, but that's certainly something that can be brought up in the future. I know that the counties of Tuolumne and Mariposa, and I believe it was Madera, lobbied at the governor's office for that. So I would recommend joining up with them too and seeing, you know,
We were actually in CSAC lobbying.
yeah, that's another, yeah.
Do those efforts, and there is some discussion about trying to extend some type of benefit to public lands and private lands.
And private lands, yeah.
But unfortunately, it's falling on deaf ears at this time,
But
as
this-
far as the private land goes.
Yeah.
But this declaration, to get back to the question, really has nothing, I'm not going to say nothing. Really, it really isn't targeting the funding of doing this. It's just basically, if I read it correctly, it's kind of the permission to go after this, correct?
The counties,
Well, I mean,
Or the
the
state.
governor's declaration, which is, for the most part, what we're endorsing by our resolution.
yes. And what you are doing is you are opening that door for other grants.
I just wanted everyone to be clear on that. This has nothing to do with the funding of making this happen. That would be another step, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Accepting like the state of emergency, and then
Correct.
it
Right.
opens up possibilities.
Right, because I looked
Yeah,
through all
you
of it
don't-
and I couldn't find anything to that.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, I think we need to have an additional follow-up agenda item about this for private property, you know.
And CAL FIRE may be able to speak more on what could happen on the private property side, because I know they work with the fire safe councils and
Yeah.
stuff like
I
that,
think
so.
that would- You guys agree?
Good idea.
I agree.
So, you know, and I hate to keep barking at this,
Could you work?
but as we move forward and the RCD is formed, it's important that this county votes, because this RCD is going to go on a ballot to form. It's important that this county forms this RCD, because that is the vehicle that could help us to manage the situation within the county. And the RCD can go after the funding that comes up in a lot of these different states of emergencies and other funding that's out there, so that we can put a comprehensive program together. We can keep throwing money at these states of emergencies, and it's taxpayer dollars, by the way. It just keeps going and forever. Or we could put together a program, which I already did actually, that could help us manage the situation where we can reduce our costs to the taxpayer and increase our the health of our environment. Because this isn't going to stop. It's going to, we'll respond to this just like we're responding to our fire right now. And then we'll respond to a flood. And then we'll respond to this. And the next time around, we'll keep responding. And I'm a type of person that I don't like responding as much as I do like preventive maintenance, so that we don't have to respond. That saves money. If you don't think that's true, then stop maintaining your car for a while and tell me if you don't spend a whole bunch of money on it. So you know, yeah, we are at where we are right now with this, and I think that we need to support this. But we really should start getting serious about moving into the future and putting together the program that will help us to not be in these situations again in the future. So that's what I have to say about it.
I would just reiterate that this is the first step, and I think a step in the right direction, but it is, yes, indeed, only a first step.
Right. And so I think our board approved the Calaveras Watershed Management Pilot Program almost 2 years ago. And it's sitting there still, so. Al?
Public comments. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. Thank you for the good work you do on this thing. I really agree with some of the things you're saying. Some time back, we almost killed our timber industry. I don't know how seriously they were wounded, maybe 80%, maybe more. And as a consequence, they were managing our forests, believe it or not. They were removing the fuels at a rate greater than that, or greater than being replaced. So you didn't have the fuel buildup. When we mistakenly try to eradicate the private timber industry, we ended up with a heck of a problem. So we still have a timber industry. They're not completely dead. And they seem to be the experts about trees. And all we're doing now is talking about government doing this, declaring this. There's going to be emergency, and then being vague on what it's going to cost the taxpayer. And we do know that the CHIPS program is a tax-consuming program. It doesn't pay for itself. And I don't think it ever claimed to do that. So I think probably now what we could do is ask the timber industry their opinion. What do they think would be the best thing? They're the experts. And then depending on the response we get from them, and we should talk about not just private property, talk about public property too. Is it really economically viable to remove the dead trees quickly? Is it economically viable to remove the bark beetle trees? Not the burnt trees, but the bark beetle trees. And then as far as on private property, this is a contract between the landowner and the timber people. And it shouldn't involve very much government with that. In other words, we might be building up, looking for government solutions on something that really we have the solutions already in front of us by a timber industry that knows about trees. They know about trees. They've been doing it for many, many years. Let's consult with them. Call the timber industry, set up a meeting, get their opinion.
Mark the calendar. I want to compliment. You thought I just love you for your good looks and personality.
I figured it was my look.
I'm glad you folks are thinking about the future, both prevention and control. We do live in a forest. I happen to live in a manzanilla farm, but that's beside the point, but it's not living. Also, it's, if you can get some of these chips, I might be talking dummy because I'm just a city boy, but you can mix it with some of the waste that you have. You can also offer it to a lot of the folks who are in the flood zones. And you would get that benefit back because some of those properties lost their property values. So you would get it back in property tax because they can get it back up to the level where it's not considered a flood zone. That's one thing. And you mentioned you might have a problem with some private properties or public properties that you're going to do some of this cleaning. Any possibility that somehow you can put in a little bit of a private ingenuity and say, hey, we want to remove this fire danger, but we or somebody can use some of whatever leftover, and we're going to give you a certain amount of profit that we might be making. Or maybe it's just going to be a total loss, but But that's, if they have all this fire danger, and you can show that, look, remove this fire with your permission, and mix it in with the public land safety, your fire insurance might go down a little bit also. So, yes, I'm sure with all the brains at that table, you can figure out a way, but it's a very good idea. I like to support it and see if we can get, like I said, some of the great minds of the people who do this for a living. Been doing a relatively good job also. And Chris is, I think he's the expert on chips. Get him involved maybe somehow. I don't want people to do it for nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But it would benefit all the parties involved somehow, both private and the public. This makes this county safer in the long run, and it might be financially be feasible also. But I got both faith for all the great minds at this table. Thank you. Almost all of you smiling, my God. Scary.
Good morning again, Rosemary Wilson from McCullum Hill. I think I'm seeing how the free market economy is in fact working, because when I came up here, and I came up because I like the trees. Pleasanton is a nice place, but up here, up in Arnold and Lakemont and down in District 2, where I am now, it's a beautiful place. But then the fire comes and the bark beetles have been munching their way through for a few years, and you find that you have acres of dead trees, burnt trees, that when you go to public meetings where there are timber professionals, lumber people, they will tell you that they're still recovering from the rim fire. They've got more wood than they know what to do with. And so letting the timber industry solve the problem, I don't think they want the problem to solve. They've got enough work to keep them going for a couple of years. This is what one person from that I met up at West Point was telling me. And when those timber professionals talk about parcels of land, 20 acres is a small parcel to them. And up in Arnold, where you have a lot of less than half acre property up in Arnold is a larger lot. You have trees that are just dying, so there's it's a big problem. Instead of the trees being a resource, they turn out to be a big liability. So I think at this stage it's difficult unless you can come up with unknown as yet uses for wood chippings. I don't really think the general market is going to help us with this, and I think we need some state or other monies to. It's an enormous problem that we have. Thank you.
Yes. For this.
For the agenda.
For this agenda item.
Not.
Okay. Randy Allen is my name, and I had a few comments on this. There's another important, serious issue that I came here to address, but I'll give you a moment on this one, if it's okay with you. I worked in Colorado and Washington State. I'm a sawyer by trade, and I worked in Colorado and Washington State on the beetle kill issue. And if I were a county and were seeking solutions to the problems, I would reach out to Laramie County officials in Colorado and Boulder County officials in Colorado. They're dealing with, it seems, real similar problems to what you're addressing right now, but they addressed these 2 and 3 years ago, and they have some solutions that will help you come to an amicable way to deal with the beetle kill trees. I personally worked on several projects in Colorado and Washington State in attempts to mitigate the damage before the beetles got to areas. And so I personally have seen a lot of the hands-on, on-the-ground work with beetle kills, but that's not what I'm here to address. I wanted to share that with you because this is the current agenda item. Is there a way to get an item on the agenda to be addressed? There's a real critical need that I identified in your fire victims that I wanted to bring up. And when you guys have time, I would like to share that with you.
And the first item on our agenda, we just spent the last 4 hours basically talking about fire-related problems or solutions, and that's when you...
I certainly do apologize for not making your schedule. I'll briefly tell you what I was doing this morning. I discovered that the HEAP program, are you guys familiar with that? Home Energy Assistance Program. And I apologize, this is off topic. Is that okay?
The HEAP program,
may I address that for 2 minutes?
I think we get public comment.
so we have, at the end of this, we'll give you a comment period for that, okay?
Great. About what time?
Right after we're done with this particular agenda item.
Great, I'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, don't miss it.
Yes, sir.
Blackball, I don't know if I can be around.
All right. Any other public comments on item number 2?
Can I make one more comment? And that is, just so you know, if you go to the Butte Fire webpage, there was a press release that was done by the PIO addressing dead trees on private property. So just so you know that at least that is being addressed at some level. I know we want to take it a lot further than that, but at least we are looking into that.
Yeah, I think we need to...
Any other public comments on this? Any more board comments?
No.
I have one more, naturally. So I'm reading through this state of emergency and the language around what the governor ordered. And it's probably one of the reasons why I've been so adamant about the watershed program I've been pushing. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I am trying to get us into a position where we can be more self-sustainable in the county and we don't have to deal with what we dealt with, what we're dealing with the fire. Again, I don't want to deal with that again. There are ways of doing it without bleeding the taxpayer. Because right now, with everything I see here, is bleeding the taxpayer. I'm a business owner and I pay a lot of taxes. I own my work, I pay a lot of taxes. And it's going to get more and more and more. We will never catch up this way. We will never solve the problem, ever, this way. This addresses one problem that we're having right now. And this is a continuance of having the taxpayer pay for this stuff. And we need to try to wean off of that and move towards a more self-sufficient way of doing things. And we can do that. There's value in our land here. Our resources, our natural resources have value to somebody. And that value is how we should manage towards. I mean, I'll pay taxes because I think that we have to take care of things. But this kind of stuff here, when there's programs or a program that could be offered that would prevent all of this in the future, that's a part that I get irritated about. And I don't know if it's just because nobody wants to hear about it anymore, or nobody wants to just listen to it, Or maybe it's just out of the box thinking that they just don't comprehend. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because there's a bunch of special interest stuff going on. Who knows? But we're going to go from this one to the next one if we continue to operate like we are right now. And then the businesses and the people that are paying taxes, which I don't know if people really understand all of that much, if they aren't doing that. They pay and they pay and they pay. And pretty soon, they won't be able to stay in business. So shouldn't we try to create an economy here, to create more business here, and wean ourselves off of that tax burden? Shouldn't we try to do that? So that is the goal in my mind. Here, we're stuck here. I cannot disagree with this resolution because I see the damage that's being caused up there everywhere, actually. You can walk around town here and you can see the beetle kill right here in town, right next to homes and businesses and next to the highway. And those beetles are not going to stop unless we can manage and get our environment back into a healthy state again. The only way it's going to happen. And it has not been happening for many, many years, and that's why we are right now where we are. So, you guys are probably going to get really sick of me talking about this by the time this is all over, I'm telling you. And I'll tell you right now, I will get louder and stronger about it. Because this experience for me with this fire and watching what's happening to our forest right now, it touches me very deeply, and it's starting to really piss me off. And I'm getting a little tired of doing business the way we're currently doing business. It just doesn't make sense and it don't pencil out. So, having said all that, I support this resolution.
I make a motion to approve the resolution for a local state of emergency on tree mortality.
I second that motion.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, a second by Supervisor Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0. All right. We have a consent agenda.
You want to pull that one? It's the minutes.
Yeah, I'll pull it.
So the minutes from last board meeting on our consent agenda. Any public comments? Any board comments? Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes of the Board of Supervisors, regular meeting November 10th, 2015, 8 a.m.
All right, can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0. Supervisor announcements. Where's our
Randy.
Randy, where is he? Okay, so supervisor announcements.
I have nothing to report.
I had a pretty busy week. I attended the LAFCO meeting last night with Supervisor Edson. I understand that we're going to be postponing our December meeting to January due to the holidays and some other factors.
January 25th, I think.
Actually, January 25th. We did pass the RCD on a LAFCO level, bring it to the board. So that worked out very well.
That's very good.
What else did I do? Oh, I attended the Rotary Club and was able to, their luncheon meeting in Murphy's, and was able to bring them up to speed on the fire issues and things happening in the county. And in District 3, they were very appreciative and invited us back to come speak with those folks again. I attended the Blue Lake Springs Water Company meeting and was very fortunate and happy to find out that we had reached an agreement with CCWD This is something that hasn't happened in the past 15 years, I guess, other than the fact of buying surplus. So it kind of shows the change in philosophy on what's happening in our county as far as government and different organizations. We're coming together, just like we did in these crisis times of fire and crisis times of losing our sheriff. I think this county is jumping up and down on its heels and taking a fighting stance, and I'm very proud to see that. I'm very proud of the people in this county. I am attending the DWI school put on by the district attorney's office tomorrow. They're actually going into the high schools and presenting their classes. That's a result of a grant from the Office of Traffic Safety from the state. They invited the board to attend that, and I will be attending that tomorrow at Bret Harte. I'm attending the Tuolumne County Economic Development Committee scheduled for Thursday on the 19th, and we'll be attending the Calaveras Committee for Realtors installation. Further invitation on Friday. I will be attending a meeting for a project born out of the death of a 16-year-old that wanted a skate park in Murphy's, and we're actively working on that as a community. I will be coming to the board in the future with some requests for maybe some land for doing that. This year, a remarkable young man and his group, brilliant student at Bret Harte High School, was his dream, and the community's behind that dream, and we're going to make that happen if we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, great.
On Veterans Day, I was here along with Supervisor Edson at a ceremony that was presented. It was very nice. The scouts were the color guard, and there were members of the VFW here. They had a 21-gun salute. It's always a solemn event, but I think that it probably should be that way. After the event, had an incredible lunch for $5 at the VFW Hall in downtown San Andreas here. Was very good company. Was glad to be a part of it. Just as a reminder, last Thursday I held my regular office hours from 1 to 3 at RCPOA. Typically on most Thursdays I try to be there, so if anybody ever wants to come see me, I'm there, and you're welcome to do that, and I actually appreciate the company. On Monday, yesterday morning, I was in Sonora, and I had a meeting with the Area 12 Agency on Aging, their executive members. I've been asking how to increase services to our older people in the county, and they were very gracious in letting me talk with them for a good bit, and I appreciated that. There was a fair question asked about the membership on the JPA 12 Advisory Committee, which is associated with that. At the last meeting, when we approved Mr. Fry as a member, I did check on that while I was there with him. We have a very good representation in the county. That Copperopolis was the only place that had double representation, and the only district that has no representation was District 5, so it looks like I have some work to do to try to get somebody on the board, which is fine. But there are still a couple positions open. It's a large committee, and it does a lot of important work, and as was pointed out at the last meeting, a lot of money does come through that, and I'm hoping to increase some services. So if anyone's interested in applying to that advisory committee, please let me know. I think they have, one of the requirements is that you be at least 60 years old, if I remember correctly. Do you remember?
I served Steve several years ago, and I'm not 60 now, so I don't think they have that.
Well, the chair of that, because I had somebody who was younger that I was trying to negotiate it out with her. And she's the one that told me that. So if anybody has an interest, get a hold of me and I'll make sure that it's ironed out, just in case. And in the afternoon, I had a meeting with our Public Works Director and some of his staff. I put a lot of effort into understanding our solid waste issues. They're very good at letting me have a roundtable argument with them, a discussion, and always learn a lot when I'm with them. I will say one of the things that truly needs to be done, and they have it in their budget, is there needs to be an analysis of our solid waste issues. So look for that to come before us. It has been budgeted for. It's not going to tax us anymore. But the Public Works Director gave me an assignment at the end of the discussion and wants me to tell him what I want in that study also. So
That may be beyond my
waiting for
abilities.
that I will be bringing that back to the board, or it will come before the board, and we'll do a very good analysis of our landfill situation and what we need to do going forward beyond this current board and into the future. Tomorrow at noon, there's a lunch at La Quintana with the Valley Springs Area Business Association. I'm glad to be there. And the next couple of weeks are equally busy all the way to Thanksgiving, and I'm glad, want to thank everybody for that raucous song that they sung. And I was hoping to get out of here without it, but it's been quite a year since the election, and a good way to reflect when you have a birthday, I suppose. Thanks.
Okay. I wanted to note that Susan asked me to let everybody know that the recovering from wildlife resources for private landowners, the town hall meeting that was held on October 28th at the town hall in San Andreas, is now, she is edited that and put it up on YouTube, so you guys can go and watch that and let other people know about it. It's a
Good resource.
A really good resource, yeah. So thank you for reminding me to let people know about that.
What was it called again, Chris?
It's the Recovering from Wildlife Resources for Private Landowners. Recovering.
So you guys are going to start airing that now?
It's the first hour and 15 minutes, and I'll have the next hour and a half done by the end of the week. And then,
What's taking you so long? Just teasing.
I don't know, but we got 9 minutes left on this.
Oh, so we got to go quicker then.
Okay. So the other, I'll just wrap up by saying, are we meeting next week here as a board?
Yeah, that's a question.
If we don't need to, I suggest we skip it and go to the next Tuesday, since we've been meeting every Tuesday, just for Thanksgiving.
Okay, I'll pull the board. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem being here for it, but I was talking with Public Works, and I think a lot of them are looking to maybe have a day off, which they haven't had many of lately.
Question,
Yeah, that's what it
do we have any idea what the agenda might be for next meeting? Is it going to be involved, or are we going to be looking at a limited agenda?
You know, I haven't had a chance to actually look at the proposals yet. So there have been several things that have come through, but certainly we can put it on for the week after.
I have no problem giving the folks a little rest, especially the folks, departments that have to prepare for the agenda.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Debbie?
No opinion one way or the other.
In my already, I think we should give staff a break.
Okay. What does staff say?
As far as my office is concerned, I'm intending to be here and working, so whether I'm here in a meeting or here in my office, either way is fine for my purposes. It's up to the board.
Okay. Mr. Chair, maybe we better ask our bosses. What do you folks think?
So the meeting would be on the 23rd?
It's on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Thanksgiving's on Thursday, right? So what say you, public?
I would very much like to have another meeting at that point. There'll be a few more urgent needs that I can bring to your attention about.
Anybody else?
If we don't have enough enough items,
Well, you know what, the reason why we've been doing it weekly now is because we needed to, update the fire, you know, and staff has been working really hard to keep up with that. I think it's done a lot of good up to this point. So,
I didn't see them get their buddy meeting and work out there instead of sitting around here.
all right,
Make a presentation.
all right, so we won't have a meeting next week, we will have a meeting, the following week after.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
So
We can do that.
what you want to bring is important. You have a week to make an even longer list to talk to us.
Did you want to hear the one I have
And-
right now?
Hang on, you're gonna have to do it pretty quick though.
And real quick, before we get off this topic, normally, next week would be your regular agenda, and the week after would be the Butte Fire Recovery. So my recommendation is when you return, to make it the regular meeting, we'll just reschedule the Butte Fire Recovery for 3 weeks out rather than 2.
Well, we can make them a lot quicker too.
True. So,
One quick note, next meeting would be the 1st of December.
to look at my calendar.
First, yes.
I will be in CSAC, Monterey,
Okay.
so I will not be here for that meeting.
Okay then.
I just remembered that.
All right, then that is an issue. All right, so we're back to a meeting on the 24th.
And then we'll skip the first, one on the first?
Nah, we'll skip the one for Christmas.
Just take December off. You deserve it.
It's not,
Okay, let's-
it's not really us I'm thinking about, it's more of the staff. And it's,
I know.
I know you know.
Well, I mean, our regular business could be moved still to the second Tuesday. And then the meeting on the first would be our
The fire
typical
one, yeah.
fire recovery like
yeah, there you go.
we've
We
done
do that?
today.
All right, why don't we do that?
We can certainly do that, and certainly what will help drive that is seeing what needs to absolutely come to the board.
Thank you,
Right.
Board.
Right.
Okay, then we'll do that. So back off again on the 24th. That's good.
Okay.
All right, how many minutes we have left? Oh, we did that pretty quick. You got 2.
Randy Allen is my name. The group I work with in this disaster, I'm calling Deadheads Respond. Katrina was my first disaster response. Some friends of mine responded with a school bus in a kitchen to Waveland, Mississippi, 5 days after Katrina hit. And my role in that was to call companies and get donations for that kitchen in Waveland, Mississippi. I found it was a skill that I was really good at. And for the 10 years since, 6 weeks out of my life every year, I devote to disaster response. My first disaster this year was the Trinity Fire. I spent 6 weeks there. The disaster response system on the West Coast was over capacity, not able to handle all of the urgent situations, and so I took another 6-week flight up in Washington State at a fire. 4 weeks into that, on September 13th, I found out my friend Bear Dyken in Calaveras County's house burned, and all of his neighbors. And up until this point in my career of disaster response, when I meet the victim in the ashes or the rubble of their houses, is the first time I meet them. When I found Bear Dyken, my friend, lost his house, I put what I was doing in Washington State on hold and came to attend this fire. The very first phone call I made was September 13th, while your county was still on fire, to the VOAD director for California, and I asked her, "Are you activated for the Butte fire?" She immediately responded. She was on a conference call about the Butte and the Valley fires. I said, "I'm going to Calaveras County." She said, "I'm going to Lake County." And 3 weeks after I got here, I sent her an email of some needs assessments I made in the county, and she said, "Oh, thank you for the report. I spent the last 8 days in Lake County. I've been deploying resources there. I don't have any information in Calaveras County." That's VOAD, the volunteer. Are you familiar with VOAD? I don't have time to explain it. I'm going to get to the immediate problem. I found what I did is when I came here, I moved into a property right next to Frank Meyer's house. I'm sure you all know Frank, the director of Calaveras Habitat for Humanity. He lost a house. And so for the last 4 weeks, I've lived with the fire victims out on Hoover Road. The first 96 hours I was there was no other human being. It was me and the woodpeckers. people started to filter back, and I've met more of them. There's 8 out of the 27 families that I'm working directly with and have agreed to allow me to advocate for them. There's a total of 27 families out there, and this is the presentation that I want to make about the urgent issue. The heat,
Right.
the
So-
heat,
so
the
could
heat
you-
program has been in existence.
Could you bring that to me, write it down and bring it to me, and then,
I did, you have an email of it.
so
I'm going to go through this real quick. The heat program's been in existence for lots of years.
your time is up. Sorry. Time is up. So next meeting? Okay. Next meeting? Thank you.
What I will say is, I've made multiple attempts through email to keep the county appraised of programs I'm working on and developing.
So
I
you
haven't-
talk, one of them was the water well stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read your emails.
There's 4 or 5 different programs that I've started that I've communicated to the county. I haven't got any response back, except a public information officer told me I was blackballed by Mr. Moss and FEMA.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means.
So why don't we, as a matter of fact, I'll discuss it with you later in person.
I'm willing to do that because
Okay.
this is critical.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. I apologize for
Okay. I understand. All right, so that'll be it for today. Thank you very much.